Big Dumb Movie is a comedic podcast that often contains obscene language and outlandish commentary. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Big Dumb Movie, where we discuss movies of the big dumb variety. I'm your host, Corey, and I'm joined today with the original Goon Squad. First up, Alan.
Hello.
And Steve.
I'm a Goonie. That's fantastic.
You are a Goonie. Should we
it.
sort out early on which of us are which Goonies?
Yeah. I know which Goonie I'd like to be, but I know that it's probably not the one I'm going to end up being.
Who is it?
I wish I were Data, but I think I'm probably more like Chunk.
I'm Data. I'm the token Asian guy. So, Data's obviously the GOAT, but
Yes.
sorry, Steve, that's me. I'm the GOAT. Damn. So, who does that leave you with? You can be Corey Feldman.
Yeah, the actual mouth might be a good one for me.
But you have to be Corey Feldman in his comeback king era. You have to be 45-year-old Corey Feldman.
I don't want that. I'm pathetic enough already.
You can't reach those lows.
Right?
Comeback king.
God, can I just be Chunk then?
Well, I was going to say, Alan, what does that leave you with? Who are you going to be?
Brand, because he's the coolest and oldest.
Yeah.
You're not the oldest, and you're certainly not the coolest.
Damn it.
You can be Chunk or Sloth.
Oh, God.
I'll be Chunk then.
You know what? Fuck it. You can be Data, Steve. I'll be Mikey since I'm running this show anyway. Right?
Oh, I was going to say I don't want to steal Data from you, but fine. You get to be in charge then.
Data was kind of weak, though.
Oh, come on. Let's not
Data
start
was
off
kinda
on a
weak.
fight.
Get the fuck out, bro.
Right?
Data's like the Han of the Fast and the Furious group. He's fucking goated, bro.
Right? Alan's just got to light a match right at the beginning. I don't understand why you do that to me.
Yeah, that hurts. We're going to get back into that. We're going to circle back to that.
His gadgets were ridiculous.
Oh,
Just,
how dare you? Stop it. Get some help.
the ghost of Short Round is going to haunt you.
We're going to come back to this, Alan, I assure you. Today we're here to talk about 1985 Goonies, directed by Richard Donner. But before we go into the movie, I want to talk about Richard Donner. The man has done a lot of great things, a lot of great movies. Maybe some not so great movies too, sure. But, some great movies. Steve, what are some Richard Donner movies that you like, respect, want to recommend to people? Anything?
Probably going to be a controversial one, but I think the one I'd probably pick out is Lady Hawk, just because it's a pretty fun sort of fantasy film, and it's one of the pieces that like people were widely aware of at the time. It was a fairly big release when it came out in the early 80s, but I don't think many people are aware of it now. So much of the rest of his resume is worth watching, but it's stuff you're widely aware of.
It came out the same year as this.
Yeah, it may have released at the same time. The cast of kids in the commentary track I listened to say that Donner took them to see a screening of it while they were all working on the Goonies. So they were done shooting it first, I guess. But yeah, they might have released at the same time.
Delayed release.
Right. They were also saying that Pee-wee's Big Adventure was shooting on some of the sound stages right next to them at the same time they were filming in Burbank, which is pretty awesome.
That must have been fun.
Yeah. That must have been really Martha Plimpton. The way the tone in her voice when she mentioned it was actually pretty.
They should have ran through the Pee Wee Herman scenes the way Pee Wee Herman ran through the Godzilla scenes. You remember how he just runs through movie sets?
Yeah, I love that part.
I think, Steve, you have a pre-inclination, is that the right word, toward Rutger Hauer movies.
Yeah, I do actually. You're right. It didn't even occur to me until just a moment ago, but you're right.
So Steve's answer is Lady Hawk. I'm going to go next. And, Richard Donner, he has a very long body of work that goes way back before my time in movies, Steve, before I was really into movies even.
Yeah.
But one that he released when I was a kid that I loved as a kid is a movie called Radio Flyer.
Yeah, that one popped to mind. I remember seeing that in the theater. It's a really good film.
Radio Flyer is a movie that not a lot of people talk about, even when referencing Elijah Wood's child acting, right?
Yeah.
Some of his other movies, I think, are more known than that. The two that kind of get lost in the shuffle are Radio Flyer and The War.
It's right.
Radio Flyer is a weirdly morbid and uplifting movie at the same time.
It is. And the first time I saw it, I was a kid in the theater, and it was sort of hard to get through in certain aspects, and now as an adult, it's hard to get through in certain aspects, but almost from the flip side of the same coin. It's a, and in the end, really is very up. You're right, but it's an intense film.
It plays with a concept that I haven't seen a lot in movies, which is like how maybe the way you remember things when you were a kid isn't exactly the way they happened.
That's a very good point.
Maybe some of it was a coping mechanism
Right.
to cover up like things that weren't so good. Because when I was a kid, we didn't live in a great area. We went through a lot of hard times, but I have a lot of good memories.
Yeah.
And rewatching Radio Flyer last year, which I did, I was thinking like, what if some of what I remember is just a coping mechanism? Isn't that fucking weird? Like, I'll never know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think you latch on to certain things to help you deal with certain things that happen to you along the way. Yeah. It's a deep film.
Very good movie.
Yeah.
Very small role by Tom Hanks as well.
Yeah, and I think if it's probably been 10 years since I actually sat through it. Isn't the actor who played the younger brother the kid who was also in Jurassic Park?
Yeah, that's him.
Right. I can't remember his name. No, I don't mean that in a shitty way. I just can't remember his name.
But Radio Flyer is my answer for Richard Donner movies. Good movie. Alan, what do you think? I think he's going to go with the obvious, but go ahead.
I'm going to go with Free Willy.
Oh, wow. That's not what I was expecting. All right. He was the executive producer on that.
Yeah, only because I never saw basically any of the Richard Donner movies.
You've never seen the Lethal Weapon movies?
No, I know of them. I never saw them.
Wow.
I never saw Radio Flyer. I never saw Lady Hawk or Hawkman, whatever it is.
Hawkman from fucking Justice Society.
Wow, yeah, that's a deep cut. I think he makes an appearance in Harvey Birdman.
So I never saw your Hawk or Flyer movies. So yeah, I never saw Richard Donner. I don't know. Maybe the universe just never aligned. It just wasn't my guy. I never saw those movies.
Well, the most famous Richard Donner movie is 1978 Superman.
Never saw that.
Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
That's a movie I grew up on too, though.
I remember the toy being on TV a lot in the late 80s and early 90s when I was a kid.
It was.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it just sort of disappeared. I think it's one of those movies that people don't, from a social perspective, look back on as very positively, which is understandable. But
I'm so glad you brought up the toy, Steve.
Yeah.
The toy Richard Pryor, where he is purchased by a white kid.
Yeah, yeah. Just forced to be a white kid's friend because he's getting paid by the wealthy father.
Scott Schwartz is the kid, and I have met that kid.
Well,
he's not a kid anymore.
I wouldn't think so.
It's just a little bit of a spoiler. He's grown up. But I met him at the Simi Valley Toy Convention.
Oh, wow.
I was just waiting to see if Alan would laugh at me when I said that. He's also friends with previous Big Dumb Movie guest Michael Oliver, so I met him at a convention once through Michael Oliver. But he said they wouldn't do a screening of the toy. Like there was going to be some screening, and he was going to be like a special guest, and I think someone else who was in the movie or something, or someone who worked on the movie. But the plug got pulled on it because it's, like you said, it's not really a socially acceptable concept on its face. Right. And his argument to me was, well, like the message of the movie is uplifting. The message of the movie is positive, as opposed to like the story on its face.
Right.
Because ultimately it's about the reconnection of family. It's not a great movie. It's kind of like hand-fisted and stuff,
right.
But the kid that kind of gets back with his dad and they, work things out, whatever. But I somewhat agree with him. It's like American History X. It might seem like that's not a good movie to show people.
Right.
But it's really the message in the end that is positive.
I mean, American History X, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. That movie gets rough. Wow. Yeah. Edward Norton is fantastic in that film. Wow. And Eddie Furlong, that was really the peak Furlong.
My upstairs neighbor looks like Edward Norton from American History X.
Sweet Jesus.
And I can't stop thinking about that. It looks like the actor, like him from that movie specifically, with the goatee. He's like thin and he looks exactly like...
Thin but built.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. He looks like Edward Norton from that movie.
Don't piss that guy off, dude.
I know. No. I'm like, oh my God. I can't stop thinking about that.
Does he ever call you brother by any chance?
Oh.
Is he ever like, hey, brother?
It might just be Edward Norton from that movie.
Yeah.
Just living in Camarillo.
So we're going to talk about the Goonies now. a movie that had a $19 million budget, which is pretty large in 80s money. This movie made a lot of money. It has a reported $64 million box office, but when I see that number, I realize that this movie is 40 years old, and that number will accumulate when they re-release it, which they do fairly regularly.
Yeah.
They just did it for the 40th anniversary. But Steve, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell was this movie made?
Detail seems kind of thin for this, but my understanding is that Steven Spielberg came up with the idea. Not a surprise considering the kind of films Spielberg was making at this point in time. But he apparently took the idea to screenwriter Chris Columbus and shared it and basically offered Columbus the chance to write the actual screenplay. And the two of them kind of collaborated on it from there. And I'm sure that a lot of Spielberg is in it. And I know from the commentary track that they actually let Spielberg direct something like 2 of the scenes for the film. But I also think that probably the larger percentage of the screenplay ended up being Columbus. And he's known for a bunch of stuff. And I won't go over the whole list, but like the original Gremlins, a film called Young Sherlock Holmes, an animated adventure from the animated version of the Little Nemo Adventures and the Home Alone movies, blah, blah, blah. Columbus wrote the script based on Spielberg's ideas. Spielberg decided to just produce the film through Amblin Entertainment, which is a company that he owns. And I think it was really him that started acquiring other or bringing in other people. Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall co-produced on the film. Their resumes are gigantic.
My Uncle Frank.
Your Uncle Frank.
These are some big names.
Yeah.
So far, you've named Steven Spielberg, Kathleen Kennedy, Chris Columbus, and Frank Marshall. It's like a recipe for success.
That was my thinking exactly. I mean, you watch the credits for the larger titles on this film, and it's like, holy shit, look at this list of people.
Not to mention the director, the man we talked about himself, Richard Donner.
Right?
The man who made us believe a man could fly.
Right? Absolutely. And, from there, it's basically just they cast it, and it worked. It worked like magic. It seems like all the elements came together. It's all the right creative people. They cast the movie exceptionally well for all these parts. For whatever else we can say about him, since even Feldman is like perfect in it.
What do you mean by even Feldman?
Well, his performance history has not been real consistent since the early 90s.
Well, he was fine in this movie.
He was good. Yeah. Corey Feldman was a really good child actor of the 80s.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, child actors hit and miss sometimes, but I think he was one of the good ones for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and he was coming off. I mean, he was in the middle of a success spiral at this point. He had already done the original Gremlins, and he did this and Lost Boys and blah blah blah. It was wow. This kid's resume for a period of the better part of almost a full decade was actually pretty fantastic.
Okay, so a good bit of history there about how this kind of was put together. So we'll talk about the movie now itself, the Goonies. The first thing we see is that epic skull and crossbones, which dots the I in the title card of the Goonies.
Right.
I always liked that.
Yeah, me too.
For a long time, I had a shirt that had that exact font with the skull and crossbones. But Alan, the movie opens up properly in the county jail in a prison cell, right?
Yes, where the guard is gathering all the prisoners, and he finds one of them hung himself, which I thought was pretty dark. I was like, okay, this is kind of a crazy movie. Like, there's a guy who's like just straight up hung himself. That's like the first 30 seconds or like minute. That guy's already just hung himself.
That is Jake Fratelli. He has Epsteined himself.
Yeah.
Oh.
But then you quickly find out it was a ploy for him to escape. The old trick where he pretends he needs help or he's dead, and then he had like a metal pipe hook to like prop him up in like his jacket or in his back of him. But yeah, he didn't actually hang himself, and then he escapes the prison.
Now, Steve, we got the Fratelli chase scene, which is kind of like the proper opening to this movie.
Yeah.
There's really no music in that title card, and the music starts
right
here during the Fratelli's escape.
Yeah.
We can see that these are bad guys.
Right.
That's very clear right away. And I gotta say, I love the music in this movie. It's so fucking good.
It's a great score for this film.
It's a guy named Dave Grusin, I looked at his resume, didn't recognize a lot of his stuff, but a very long and historied body of work. What do you think about the Fratelli escape?
It's fun. Well, it doesn't really stand out from an artistic perspective, so to speak. It's almost very standard, but it is also kind of fun and clever in the sense that it also allows us to be introduced to some of the kid characters while it's happening, which I do think is kind of a clever way of pitching it. And they've got a clever way of kind of escaping at the very end of the chase onto the beach. I don't know if we want to jump right to that, but it's our introduction to all three Fratellis, the two brothers and their mother, played by Anne Ramsey. And either I'd forgotten this or I didn't know it to begin with. Apparently, from what I heard in the commentary, Joe Pantoliano and Robert Davi hated each other, and wouldn't speak when they didn't have to for the part.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because their rivalry is evident in their first scene together. He's like, let go of the fucking handle so I can get in. He's like, I'm not holding it. And he is.
Right.
He's like, what a shithead. These two guys, their dynamic is great. Like, they fucking hate each other. And I didn't realize this until this watch, but the mom hates Jake and likes Francis.
Yeah.
You notice that?
Absolutely.
She hates that fucking guy.
Right.
And how can you not? I mean, he's pretty hateable. Not that Francis is any better.
No.
With his fucking wig, you know? But I love Joe Pantoliano. Like, honestly, I love this fucking guy.
Right? And, I mean, he'd previously been known for playing a pimp character in the movie Risky Business, and it's hilarious.
All right, Steve, look at this picture and tell me that the mom wasn't played by Meatloaf.
You were being so mean to Anne Ramsey. I
I'm
don't
not
understand
being
why you
mean to
feel the
her.
need to drill onto Anne Ramsey.
No.
Meatloaf, you
I
say?
thought it was Meatloaf. I really did. I was like, it could be like on par for the movie.
Meatloaf does do some acting, Steve.
That's what
Well,
I
yeah,
mean.
he's a great actor.
Mm-hmm.
Was a great actor.
But
Poor guy.
anyway.
No, alas, it is not Robert Paulson. It's Anne Ramsey, right?
Oh, his name was Robert Paulson.
Was that her name, Anne Ramsey?
Anne Ramsey. And she mostly did TV, did not have a huge resume, but she was in another movie a few years later called Throw Mama from the Train that had Danny DeVito in it, and I think Billy Crystal. Now I'm blanking, but it was a pretty popular movie at the time, and she won an Academy Award for a supporting part.
She died in the 80s, not too long after this movie, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think it was all that long.
So she's no longer with us, but we got the Fratelli set up. Like you said, there's glimpses of the side characters, which is really cool.
Yeah, as they're escaping through what is supposed to be Astoria, Oregon, and they did film a big chunk of it up there. They pass by, Mouth is in the kitchen with his father's trying to fix the sink, and it blows water into his face, or he blows water into Mouth's face, and God, we see them all doing something.
And we see the goat, Data himself.
Yeah, Data's up on a rooftop, right? What's he doing first?
He shoots a trash can with his little mechanism.
Yeah, I thought it was like a junkyard or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He has like a little mini plunger device.
Like a repelling device.
I thought it was to pull things to him.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like.
Yeah.
Like he can extend it out and pull things to him, but it kind of doesn't work right. Some of Data's gadgets are still in the prototype phase, you know?
I mean, I'm sure you would have touched on it. We'll probably touch on it again, but the 80s Rube Goldberg and mechanisms that don't quite work the way they're supposed to, tropes, so to speak, in the best possible way, are ever present in this. Which is, Columbus clearly liked this because he did the same thing with Billy's dad and Gremlins. He was the inventor, but none of his inventions worked correctly.
That's right.
I was going to say, I noticed that too. There's a lot of mechanical stuff in this movie.
And funny that
all his inventions and the traps and there's a lot of things going on.
Right? And they were filming right next door to Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which opens with one of the best Rube Goldbergs in cinema history. Makes his eggs for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of time coming up with mechanical things.
They did. No, and apparently they, at least according to what they said in the commentary, they all actually functioned. The people doing the set stuff really made them all actually work, so they didn't have to figure out how to fake it later.
So among that mini intro of side characters, one of the people we see is Steph, who's Andy's female best friend.
Oh, yeah. Martha Plimpton.
And I have no idea what she's doing to this day.
Yeah, neither do I. I can't quite
She has her
figure it out.
head, she's at the docks. She has her head dunked in water and she pulls out a crab and tosses it. I have no fucking clue what it is, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Why? What is she up to right there?
What does it mean? With Data, you kind of get the idea that He has inventions with mouth. He kind of like, he kind of like talks a lot of shit.
Steph drinks a lot of seawater. I mean, that's
she gets
my
dysentery sometimes, I guess.
You guys forgot Chunk when he spills his food.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
like the yogurt gets on the mirror or the glass.
Oh, yeah. He sees the vehicle going by, and he keeps referring to it as an ORV, which is an off-road vehicle. I don't know why, but he then goes running around telling everyone he saw the police chasing an ORV. Yeah.
He's really hooked on that term,
Right?
You know? Kids get hooked on terms. Speaking of which, when I was in high school, I used to spend a lot of time at my friend's house, and he had a little brother that was like 4 or 5.
Right.
And their dad bought the Goonies and wanted to show it to the 4 or 5-year-old, right? So you put this movie on, you see that scene with Chunk. Chunk spills his whatever milkshake on himself,
yeah.
Milkshake
and he goes,
yogurt.
shit.
Yeah.
The fucking 5-year-old was saying shit nonstop after that. Shit. It was so fucking funny.
Oh, I love it.
The mom was pissed.
Oh, God, absolutely. I mean, I bet you had the same experience. I remember certain movies I got old enough to watch, but my mother was like, "You not when your younger brother." 'Cause my brother's 4 years younger than me. She's like, "You can't watch this in front of your brother. He's going to be repeating this shit."
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, bummer. Nothing exciting ever happens around here anyway. Who needs the Goondocks? Who needs this house? I can't wait to get out of here.
Really?
Nah, I was just trying to delete myself. No. You know, dictate myself.
That's delude yourself, dummy.
That's what I said.
I know how you feel, Wimp. I'm sure gonna miss this place, too.
Then we get to Mikey's house, and we get to see Mikey and Brand.
Yeah.
Now, Steve, we spend a little bit of time here with them, and there's some like story elements that are set up here, right?
Yeah.
It's really quick that we learn that they're about to lose their house. And not long later, we learn that like, well, everyone in that whole area, that little neighborhood is losing their homes,
Yeah.
right? Because
Some land developer, they're putting
Yeah,
something there.
The country club is going to expand into their neighborhood. And the whole project is apparently being fronted by some of the wealthiest members of Astoria's population who are also like members of and chair people of the local country club. They're not super specific about that, but that's the takeaway, I think. So yeah, they're all being foreclosed on. And you kind of learn that in the scene. And they establish that Mikey, the younger one, is asthmatic and his older brother's kind of a jock. But he's not... It's funny, he's not the douchebag jock. He actually sort of steals the girl from the douchebag jock, who's another character completely, a really annoying character. That character is really annoying. But,
which character, Steve?
the Andy's boyfriend, I can't remember what his name is now.
I know who you're talking about.
Troy.
Troy, there it is. He's a douchebag type asshole. Just, so we see Brand's in there exercising, and Mikey's wandering around with his inhaler, and they're lamenting what's about to happen.
And the
And-
friends start to show up. So
Yeah.
Mouth is the first one that shows up at the front door,
Right.
doing his little like movie impressions. Does a little bit of Rocky Balboa. Does a little bit of Groucho Marx.
Right.
You know, he's kind of like the funny guy. They kind of each have their thing. They're kind of like a little bit tropey in a way, right?
Right.
Mouth being like I don't know, makes me think of Richie from the It book.
Yeah.
The Stephen King It. You know, kind of like the funny guy that does voices.
Yeah. God, he would have been a pretty decent cast for that in an alternate universe.
Data comes in on like a zip line.
Data shows up on a zip line, yeah. And he's got that fucking upper body strength, bro.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, because he starts up like on someone else's rooftop or something and zip lines his way into the front yard.
He's holding on like bike handlebars,
Yeah.
and he's like holding himself up, you know? His back isn't like strapped to this thing.
He's Asian, it's fine.
He's got that parkour upper body strength.
Yeah, I mean, they'd already trained him hard to be short round, so he was up there.
Alan, I wanted to ask you about the arrival of Chunk, because he's at the gate and he's like, let me in, guys, let me in. But they won't let him in. Not unless he does something first, right?
He does the chunk dance.
The Chunk dance. Call it by its proper
Yeah,
name,
please.
goddammit.
Show it some respect.
Wait, what was the name? I already forgot.
Oh my God, it's the Truffle Shuffle.
The truffle shuffle, that's it.
The Chunk dance.
The chunk dance. He does like the spaz where he like spazzes out.
Hey, you Jerk alert.
It's Chunk.
I just saw the most amazing thing in my entire life.
First, you gotta do the truffle shuffle.
Come on.
Do it.
Come on.
Do it.
Cut it out, Mouse.
Steve, what the hell is the truffle shuffle?
He's this chubby kid, and he's wearing this Hawaiian shirt and plaid pants, which is hilarious. Jeff Cohen in the commentary says that every single movie or TV show he was in during the years before he lost a lot of weight, which he eventually did, he was always the token chubby kid, and he was always forced to wear either a Hawaiian shirt or plaid pants, and then Donner made him wear both for this. And he pulls his shirt up and just does this funny, like a jokey kid's belly dance. You know, he calls it the truffle shuffle. And apparently, I only know this from the commentary too, he got cast for the part, and then something like 2 or 3 weeks before they started shooting, he got chicken pox. And he didn't say anything, just didn't tell anybody. So the production didn't find out, and he showed up on the first day or during the first few days with chicken pox. And this was early shooting, because they shot apparently mostly in sequence. And they ended up having to cover his abdomen in makeup because he had chicken pox all over his body.
But then this is where we get our first the machine with all the mechanics and
Yes.
shit.
Oh, yeah.
After the mandatory humiliation entry fee by Chunk.
That's how they open the door.
They open the door. Now, the door is this really complicated Rube Goldberg mechanism, right?
Right.
But Mouth already came in the front door, so that means that Mouth came in and reset it all up.
Right, and Data broke the screen door on his way in.
Yeah, but Data at least went over the gate, you know? Mouth
Oh,
came
it's
through
true.
the gate.
Right.
So that means that Mouth had to, like, reconfigure this whole fucking mousetrap thing.
Right.
Oh my god! There's like one part where it scares a chicken to lay an egg.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never known chickens to lay eggs like on command like that, but that's interesting.
The whole thing's ridiculous.
It was the 80s.
The
It's
machine
fine.
is cool. It is cool, but it's also ridiculous, Alan. I agree.
Yes.
It's like insane. It's way too complicated to open a gate.
It is. It is. I mean, the sequence to get the gate open is a solid like 10 to 15 seconds. At some point along the way, I'm like, is this gate going to open or what? Like, can we just get to
Is
it?
it going to fail on like step 6?
Right, yo, then what happens? You got to run down there anyway.
This is why they're taking your house.
Right. Your parents spent too much money buying you parts for your Rube Goldbergs.
I couldn't pay their mortgage.
Right.
That's why they need the rich stuff. Rube Goldbergs are not cheap, yeah.
Hey, Data, don't mess this one up. And prepare for the wings of flight. Oh! Screen door! Mikey, the screen door! Hey, I bet you guys thought I was gonna drop it, huh? I know you would think that from good old Chunk.
You idiot!
Oh, look, it's not broken. It's perfect, huh? It's perfect.
Oh my God!
What?
That's
What?
my mom's most favorite piece.
What? Oh, oh my God.
It wouldn't be here if it wasn't.
Shut up, Mel.
Shut up, Mal.
They break the dick off a sculpture.
That's right. Chunk knocks it over. Or who knocks it over originally?
Well, Data like flies in and
That's
like Chunk
right.
falls over. Chunk is like his thing, which I didn't quite understand as much as a kid, is that he will break anything he's near. Like he's a clumsy fool.
Right.
He's a clumsy liar. He's a pathological liar, and he's super clumsy. What are his good qualities?
But they break off the most important part.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
That's mom's favorite piece.
right. Well, and then Feldman has a few actually really good jokes, and he responds to that by saying, "You wouldn't be here if it weren't." So
And then he glues it.
She
He
loves
glues
the
it.
D.
He
right.
glues it back upside down.
Like
I
it's
know-
got like a boner.
So the testicles are on the top,
Yeah.
and I've like this bit. It's funny. I concede that it's funny. I get that it's supposed to be silly, but like even as a 10-year-old, it didn't make sense to me. It's like you're all equipped with this part. You don't know which direction it's supposed to go. I don't. This doesn't make any sense to me.
Bran knows.
Right.
Now, Alan, the mom shows up, Mrs. Walsh, and she has hired a helper to help them with the moving process, Rosalita. And Mouth helps show her around, right? The house, and kind of does some translation for her.
But he speaks some Spanish for some reason.
He speaks Spanish.
Pretty well Spanish, even though everything he tells her is ridiculous. He tells her which like drawers are for the drugs. He tells her that there's like an upstairs or the attics for like their sex dungeon
Yeah.
or something. And he just tells her all this ridiculous stuff in Spanish, which again is pretty good, but somehow he just knows Spanish.
He knows Spanish, you
He
know?
learned it in school. He says.
And
Some-
it's like pretty good too. Like,
Some kids are bilingual. You know, it is what it is. I wasn't too hung up on that. What I was hung up on this watch is like Rosalita's going to have no idea like what to do. Like the mom's giving instructions. She's
Yeah.
like, everything in this drawer you got to like put in this box, whatever. And he's just like, the drugs go in here,
Yeah,
the cocaine, the heroin, the smack.
like tells her not to go in the attic.
And like, she's not going to be helpful at all. And the mom's going to be like, why aren't you doing what I said?
Right? Yeah. At some point, this is going to come to a head.
But it's kind of a funny bit.
You know, it is amusing. He apparently learned those specific lines for the movie. Didn't really learn to speak Spanish, but learned that specific dialogue. And Richard Donner's personal assistant, who apparently is bilingual and fluent in Spanish, coached him. Yeah,
I thought he committed and just learned Spanish.
right. No, he was too busy hunting vampires in his spare time.
Yeah. Maybe he was too busy writing his songs that would eventually become #1 hits.
You know, those angels were just destined to be right at the top of the charts.
Corey's Angels.
Corey's Angels.
So the Goonies are all here. The Goonies consist of Mikey, Sean Astin, Data, who's Ki Hui Kwan. I believe I'm probably going to pronounce that wrong, but Data. Chunk is Jeff Cohen, and then Mouth, Corey Feldman. I think the four of them are the Goonies. That's what they call themselves.
Yeah.
But Steve, I mean, what are the Goonies? Like, what does that mean? Like, it's something that is... They don't really go into it specifically. It's just kind of like a vague idea that's mentioned.
There's actually a novelization of the movie that adds some additional things, some of which I'll mention later, but I think they go more into it in the novelization. But yeah, it's like they're named for their little core group. You know, the group of them are the Goonies, and they live in a neighborhood they call the Goondocks. And you know, they've known each other probably since they were kindergarten aged or something. And those are the kids at that point in your life that you're having all your big life experiences with. They're the ones that go on this kind of adventure with you.
Now, do you think it's also, like, again, to reference Stephen King's It, like the Losers Club? Like, they're kind of like the outcast kids that have kind of formed a clique?
I think you're right. I was actually in my head trying to make that connection. Couldn't really verbalize it properly, but I agree with you. Yeah.
Well, that's why Wet Troy exists. He's the cool jock.
Yeah, Troy is super cool. The thing
Yeah,
is, who
he's
would
the
deal
cool
with that
kid.
guy? You know, like,
Right?
Troy's dad does show up to give them paperwork to, like, finalize the foreclosure of the house or whatever it is, right? Because Troy's dad is, like, the guy behind the scenes that's kind of turning the wheels of that whole thing.
Right.
And there's some fucking golden lines with Ki Hui Kwan that just make me laugh.
Yeah.
Because the dad shows up and he goes, "Hello, boys. I'm Troy's father." And he goes,
We know who Troy is. He's such a cheap guy.
that's like one of his lines that he says that cracked my shit up.
Right.
And then I'll get to like the other ones later on when we get to that point in the movie. But I love that.
Hold
and
on to your potatoes.
I love that guy. That
He's
actor,
so
dude.
fantastic.
He's amazing.
He is. He's the coolest dude. I'm so glad he's having this comeback now. If anybody deserves it, it's him. I mean, he was in the industry as a stunt coordinator for a while as well. But like, if anyone deserves the bounce back, it's him.
Yeah. And, you know, he was in Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
You know, Oscar movie. Alan, did you end up seeing Everything Everywhere?
I did not.
As a longtime Simi Valley
That's
resident,
right.
I feel like you should watch it because the movie takes place in Simi Valley.
It does.
Yeah.
I heard that. Yeah.
And of course, he was in Loki season 2, and he got a movie that came out at Love Hurts, whatever it is. But anyway, I love that dude.
Yeah.
And, going back to like the Goonies era, I always thought he was super cool. He was the one I identified with.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your dad gonna do with all that stuff that's in the attic? He's gonna give it back to the museum. Or whoever they picked to be the new assistant Curly. Or Curry. Oh, wait a minute, guys. Maybe there's some stuff up there for us. Maybe there's some stuff that we can keep from the All-Siders. Lots of Maybe there's some rich stuff. Rich stuff. Rich stuff. That's responsibility, you guys. The museum's probably got a list of them somewhere. You guys, listen to me, damn it. That's his stuff.
So the kids, the Goonies, along with Brad, decide to, I guess, like raid the attic because the dad works at a museum and he's got like all this cool shit stashed in the attic.
Yeah.
Up until this point, no one's ever been allowed to go up there.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, though, because when they're showing Rosalita around the house and Mikey and Brand's mother notices that the door to the attic is open, the way she comments about it makes me feel like it's supposed to be off limits, but the reality is the kids go up there occasionally anyway.
I thought the dad left it open.
Oh, maybe that's what it's supposed to be.
I got the vibe they were seeing this stuff for the first time.
Or that? Yeah, I agree with you about that. So that could be true. Yeah, but it's also like if I get he's the curator at this museum, but why would he be allowed to keep all that stuff at home? Museums have storage for that.
He's just stealing stuff from the museum.
Right? Can you imagine somebody taking a Rembrandt and putting it at home somewhere and being like, I'm just holding on to it for the museum.
And then
it's
poking
fine.
A hole in the mouth.
Right? Yeah, this 400...
I was very upset by what Corey Feldman did to that painting.
Right?
That fucking bothered me.
No, me too. And it's actually another great exchange because Mikey's like, you're ruining my painting, and Mouth is like, you're ruining my joke. And the way he delivers it is really actually sincerely perfect.
Come on, guys. It's dusty in here. My hay fever's acting up, and you always break something. What? Okay. Come here and make me feel like a woman. Come on, give me a nice wet lickery kiss. I gotcha. Now get out from behind there. You're ruining the painting. You're ruining my joke. It's already flat.
Agreed.
Yeah, but you're right. It's kind of a creepy moment. Like, what are you doing?
Fucking with the painting. They're breaking shit left and right.
Right? Everything gets smashed.
It's like half stuff from the museum and like half stuff from like Spencer's Gifts. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
like those like electrical orbs that you touch and
the orb
So,
with the lightning thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, if it's being stored up in the attic, why is it plugged in?
Why does it have power?
Right?
Like, why is it actively running?
like they're on. Yeah.
Right. It's just like, hey, Mikey, your power's or the attic's generating its own power.
Yeah, they start going through the attic to see like maybe we can find something kind of valuable and save the Goondocks. I want to underline that is the goal of our main characters, especially Mikey, who's really leading the charge on this idea of maybe there's something we can do that will generate some money for our families real quick and we can continue to live here without losing our homes. They need a lot of money. We don't know how much, but suffice to say it's probably like millions of dollars, right?
Right.
To save all the homes in this area from being
Yeah.
like torn down and replaced by a golf course, country club. So that's the goal. That's why they're up here. And they find something that helps them along on this journey. They find every kid's fucking dream, a treasure map.
Right.
This is really playing up to the child fantasy, which this movie is like the definition of the child fantasy, right, Steve?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it feels a lot like, I mean, especially because Short Round's in it, but it feels a lot like Indiana Jones, but for kids. In a good way. Like, not in a dumbed down, it's ridiculous way. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, but it's fun. It's fantastic. And yeah, absolutely.
Mikey knows the history from his dad about the treasure map and the famed pirate One-Eyed
Right.
Willie.
I like this touch. There's actually a fascinating, I'm not going to go into it, there's a really fascinating history of at least some small number of pirates actually touching that part of what is now the U.S. Obviously, the pirate from the movie is not a real person, but there is some evidence that really happened. It's pretty
You mean
cool.
on the west coast of the U.S.?
Yeah, like in the Oregon and I think maybe part of Washington area, and there's actually a whole history, I think, in parts of Oregon of people being like knocked out in certain bars, and they'd wake up on a ship with a crew of pirates, basically, and told you're going to work the ship now, and I believe they called it being shanghaied. I think that's where the term comes from. But yeah.
Yay Intruders beware. Crushing death and grief. Soaked with blood of the trespassing thief.
You guys, this map is old news. Everybody and their grandfather went looking for that when our parents were our age. I mean, haven't you ever heard of that guy? What's his name? The pirate guy. One-Eyed Willie.
One-Eyed Willie. Yeah, he was the most famous pirate in his time. My dad told me all about him once.
Dad'll do anything to get you to go to sleep.
No. See, One-Eyed Willie stole treasure once. It was full of rubies and emeralds and diamonds. Diamonds. And then he loaded it all up onto a ship. And then they sailed away into the sunset. Until the British king, he found out about it, and then he set up this whole armada to go out after him. And then the armada, it took him a couple weeks, but then they caught up with Willie, and then there was a whole big war between the armada and Willie's ship, the Inferno. And during the firefight, there was just guns bursting here and cannons bursting there. And then Willie fled because he didn't want to stay around because he knew he'd get killed if he stayed around. And then he got into this cave. And then the British, they blew up the walls all around him. And he got caved in. And he's been there ever since. Forever, and ever trapped. Wow.
So the story is kind of summarized is that there's some kind of lost treasure, and supposedly this map leads to it. This map is super old, goes back to 1632, and Mikey's like, maybe we can use this, find the treasure, save the Goondocks. And the kids are a little bit skeptical at first because it seems like Mikey has, like, in scenes we never see, has taken them on other adventures, right? Because they kind of mention, like, no more of your silly shenanigans, Mikey. Like, they've done shit like this before, I'm led to believe.
Yeah.
And that's really what they do. That's what they decide to do. They kick off their adventure by, first they have to leave the house. That's like step number one. And they got to dispatch their babysitter. Do you remember how they escape and dispatch Brand here?
Yeah. They go up to him and they use his his exercise band.
Yeah, it's like a chest expander band.
Yeah, and they wrap him around with it and they tie him up basically.
They tie him up while Cyndi Lauper plays on TV. Steve, I'm sure you know this song. Goonies Are Good Enough.
Goonies Are Good Enough. This was the big title song for the film. It was a big, huge hit. The kids from the film shot a music video to go along with it. According to the commentary, they hadn't shot the music video yet when they did the movie. It wasn't until months later. And so it was superimposed in. And the video has a cavalcade of well-known wrestlers from the 70s and 80s. Rowdy Roddy Piper, My Boy From They Live, and It's Always Sunny was in there.
Maniac.
The Maniac. He was so awesome. The big guy, I want to say the Shrieking Sheik, but I think that's a Simpsons character. The actual version of him. There's a bunch of big-time. I think Macho Man's in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because Cyndi Lauper was involved in wrestling to kind of promote WrestleMania 1.
Right.
They brought in a bunch of celebrities for WrestleMania 1, and they created all these work rivalries, and it was actually really good promotion by Vince there. But
yeah,
the music from the Goonies Are Good Enough. That song.
Oh yeah,
it's one of my favorite songs ever.
Yeah.
I still listen to it all the time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've got a whole playlist of 80s music in my whole collection and blah, blah, blah. And absolutely, it's in there. It comes up in the rotation.
And that genre is not really my thing, but man, that song hits, and a lot of it comes from me growing up on this movie.
Yeah, I've got a similar thing with Sean Astin. Was in another movie 7 or 8 years later called Toy Soldiers, about a bunch of kids who get held hostage in a private military academy, and the title song for that was recorded by an artist who went by the name Martika. She'd been like a big pop star for a brief period in the late 80s and early 90s and then disappeared along with others like Tiffany. But that song is still in one of my playlists, and it's not really a great song, but like I can't not like it somehow.
I do love this song, and the kids, they make their way out of the house on their bikes.
Right.
And to make sure that Brad doesn't follow, or Brand,
Right.
they pop his tires. Now, Mikey does say that he had to mow 376 lawns to pay for that bike. So that bike is like the most valuable bike in movie history, maybe?
Right. Although, man, I mean, what did you get paid to mow a lawn in 1984? $2-3?
So what's 3 times 376?
That's true. That would have been an
That's
awfully
a
expensive
fucking
bike.
lot of money, dude.
Yeah.
For a bike
Yeah.
in the 80s.
You know, you're right. Even if you do the math
For
on
like
that, it's up
one
for a lot.
kid. Yeah.
You know, they start riding their bikes through town. They get out of there. Eventually, Brand is released from his bindings, and
He
finds
steals
his-
a girl's bike.
Yeah,
He
takes it
has
with
to have a
little
bike
girl.
to get him, so he steals his girl's bike.
he steals a 5-year-old girl's bike that has training wheels.
You
It's the only
find-
thing he can do.
You find out not long before this happens that Brand had failed his driving test, which also becomes an extended part of the joke when he's on this little girl's bike. Yeah.
Now, Steve, do you want to talk about deleted scenes?
Yeah, so there's a few deleted scenes I think are worth mentioning, and I think one of the reasons this one is worth mentioning is because there's 2 moments in this movie where you either see something or hear something that references a scene that was actually removed from the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
Later on in the movie, you notice that the map has been partly burned. But in the theatrical cut of the film, you never see what actually caused that. There's a deleted scene where the kids end up at a local convenience store, and they're just grabbing candy and magazines, and I think Chunk starts eating out of the ice cream freezer, and Troy comes in and starts accosting them. And he's got Andy and Steph with him, and this kind of sets up what's going to happen in a few moments.
It also establishes that Mouth knows Steph, because they kind of interact.
Yeah, that's true.
They have like a kind of a strange flirtation throughout the movie.
Right.
/ rivalry. But go on.
Oh, so, okay, wait, as long as you brought that up, really quick side note. In the commentary, she admits this in the commentary, well, Feldman's sitting 10 feet from her or less. Because they were all minors and they were all still supposed to be doing their primary education, there was an on-set tutor, and they took their class together as a group in a trailer somewhere on the lot in Burbank, or in Oregon, as the case may have been later filming up there. And apparently there was one day partway through the production at a point where they'd all been doing it for long enough. They were actually all kind of really exhausted, and they were wet all the time. Some of them had gotten sick. They were not really in a great place as a group anyway. And Feldman decided it would be funny to spend 4 consecutive hours just repeating everything Martha Plimpton said while they were in this classroom trailer together. And it got to the point where she got so furious at him, she jumped him, tackled him to the ground, and banged his head into the floor 5 or 6 times. And they just had to keep making the rest of the movie afterward. So apparently she really did actually just despise him at that point. And there's like at least a third of the movie where she was hating him for real. But
I think that explains some of this.
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, the kids go to the convenience store. Troy comes in. Steph and Andy are with him. Mel starts sort of flirting with Steph. Troy accosts Mikey and lights the map, and it singes the map a bit. And yeah.
Yeah. Like you said, that's a deleted scene. I want to say the version of this movie that I grew up on did include the deleted scenes because it was recorded off TV.
And what's really weird about that is that they actually specifically mention in this commentary there were some other deleted scenes that did get filmed that aren't even in the TV cut and aren't in any of the extras. There's a scene apparently that involved animatronic gorillas that they filmed that just got lost to time. And there was at least one other that went in on that list also. But yeah, the TV cut had everything that they decided to hold on to that hadn't been in the theatrical cut.
I think the movie is better with the deleted scenes personally because each one has something that pushes the narrative forward a little bit in some way.
Yeah.
Or is referenced to later on. So
yeah,
these, to complete the loop, so to speak, I think they're necessary. One thing that they do in this little convenience store is Mikey picks up a map of the local area.
That's right.
And he compares it to the pirate map, and that's kind of how he finds out where they're supposed to go.
Yeah.
As to where in the movie without the deleted scene, they just kind of arrive at the next destination.
Right.
And he actually does need this local kind of Thomas Guide style map to navigate himself.
Right.
And I think that's kind of an important thing. But also, Troy is painted much more as a douchebag in this. So you hate him even more if you've seen the deleted scenes because he's pushing them around. And he's about to like pummel Corey Feldman until like Brand shows up and you realize that Troy is scared of Brand.
Mm-hmm.
Like he acts like a badass, but he only picks on people smaller than him.
Yeah.
Troy's like 17 and he picks on 12-year-olds.
Right.
Right? And then when someone his age shows up, he shuts his fucking mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
But in the actual movie, in the theatrical cut, the version that you'll see on streaming or on your DVD, whatever it is, we see Brad riding around his little training wheels bike. And Alan, he encounters Troy in his nice car. What is he driving?
Oh, he's driving the poor man's Ferrari, the 5.0 Mustang.
Yeah.
It's a poor man's Ferrari? I thought it was a Ferrari. I don't know cars, so it's not a Ferrari?
No, it's a 5.0 Mustang.
It's an early Fox body. Early enough, it still has the slanted grill.
I like calling it the poor man's Ferrari because I think my uncle said that once when I was a kid. And Steve loves that too.
Yeah, I do. I think it's hilarious.
Did he say that about like when you guys were watching this movie or something?
No, not this movie. My uncle had one. Back when I was like a little kid, so I don't know why he said that. I don't think anybody's ever said that. Maybe he made that up, but I'll never forget that. So I always call it that.
It's a great term.
Brand, can we give you a ride somewhere?
Huh? No. Thanks anyway, though. Yeah, Walsh. Let us give you a little ride. Hold on. Here we go.
Let go of my hand! Oh my God! The sucker!
Troy sees Brand and Andy's in the car and steps in the car. And Troy just tries to murder this fucking guy, doesn't he? He straight up tries to murk him.
Yeah, he tries to like run him over.
No, he tries to run him like over a cliff.
But then they grab him and they drag him with the car on the girl's bike, and they're going like 70 or they're going like fast at this point.
They hit the NOS. The diamond plate floorboard fucking pops out of the poor man's Ferrari. And
the training wheels come off the bike and the bike starts sparking.
Danger to manifold appears on the screen.
Yeah, it starts like overheating the bike.
But yeah, right. The bike does start spark. It's like the bike is basically like falling apart due to like the
because
friction.
they can't go that fast.
Yeah,
and then they drive him off a cliff, so somehow he doesn't die.
Yeah, like Troy, he's the kind of guy that if he did kill a man this way, he'd probably get away with it. You know, like
like the influenza kid,
community service kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a funny bit though for the vibe of this movie because this is like an 80s kids fun adventure movie.
Yeah.
So there's no real sense of danger other than like maybe a slight Looney Tunes style danger. Right?
Yeah, like the whole point is the bike falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then he like flies off the cliff and it's like, whoa.
I think the very first time I saw this, I must have been 8 or 9. But the one that got me the very first time was the piano scene. We'll talk about it when we get there. But that one, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Guys! I think I have a match. I'm sure of it. The lighthouse, the rock, and the restaurant all fit the doubloon. That must mean that the rich stuff is near the restaurant. So, wait a second. Matt, I'm gonna need you to translate the map because I don't understand Spanish. Right here.
All right. Diaz, they say Diaz.
What does that mean?
10 times 10.
100. Yeah.
Stretching feet to the nearest north point.
North. What's north? Which way's north? Yeah.
And that's where you'll find the tree.
The tree, the rich stuff. The tree, the rich stuff. That's it. No, it's not stuff. So it's near the restaurant.
But the Goonie boys, they make their way to the end of the line, kind of on the map, or at least near the end of the line, which is this old dilapidated restaurant. Now, this is a building that is clearly like a shack. It has been out of business for a very long time.
And they make it sound like, and this is a real thing in certain parts of the country, they make it sound like it's a seasonal restaurant. One of them says it's closed because it's not summertime. kind of place that maybe it's just a crab shack or something. It's obviously, like you said, not anything fancy, but it is supposed to be a business that just isn't operating that time of year.
Yeah, but it looks so like run down and like dilapidated.
Yeah, this place is fucked up.
Not even that it's just closed. It looks like it's just ruined.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm just guessing at it, but there is a line where one of them implies that during the spring and summertime it would be open as something.
Like, do they remodel the whole place every time they reopen every season?
And they've got functioning freezers in there. There's a frozen body in one, so clearly it is. I agree, it's dilapidated, but at the same time, like it obviously is being used. Like it's functional. They've got electricity.
Yeah, but it's the Goonies, so don't think too hard about it.
Right.
Alan talks like this is Theodore Rex or something. Man, such disdain in your voice. There's another deleted scene here where they're out front and they're talking.
Yeah.
And in this deleted scene, they ask Data, like, they can't really see it's far away. They're like, Data, you got any binoculars? And he breaks out his, like, invention. It's so fucking funny, actually, in this deleted scene. Like, he has a little, like, arm mechanism that pops out with the binoculars, and it kind of brings them up to his face.
Right.
And then it just slides off, and it falls on a rock and, like, breaks into 10 pieces. Like, so the binoculars are immediately broken. And he's all pissed about it.
Oh, no! Oh, Data, I need to work on it. Oh, I will work on it when I go home.
This is where they kind of talk about, like, the plan in the deleted scene of, like, okay, let's go into the restaurant and, like, scope things out. They actually, like, verbalize that in the deleted scene. Again, I think the movie is better for the deleted scenes, but Steve, what is it that they do here?
God, they're up on the hillside. There's a really great shot right as they're getting up there, them dragging their bikes over the top of the hill, and you can see the ocean behind them. I think that's one of the best shots in the whole movie. And they kind of talk amongst themselves about what they want to do, and it's because they've noticed. No, has that happened yet? Sometimes I miss-sequence this part. Chunk hasn't noticed the Jeep parked in the garage yet.
No, but it happens like right about here. They make their way inside, right?
Right, yeah. Basically, it ends with them deciding to go in. Mm-hmm. You know, because they believe that they've got to go through this non-open seasonal restaurant thing to get where they need to go to find the treasure. So they get in. Well, they get down to the front door and find that it's locked. And, you know what? When they're up on the hillside, part of the reason they wanted Data's binoculars is because they do see the Fratellis going in and out. And they realize something must be going on in there because otherwise nobody would have any reason to be in there at this time of year. So they go down and they get to the front door. They realize it's locked. And in order to goad Chunk into throwing himself through the door as a way of getting it open, Mouth says something insulting about his mother. I think he says he's got pictures of Chunk's mother in the bath.
He offers to sell them to him.
Yeah.
Now that is a little bit later. That's when they re-enter, but still, it's a good. It's a good
right.
Bit. They do make their way in.
Yes.
And the Fratellis are there.
Yeah.
And they kind of play along with like the kids who say, "Oh yeah, we're here to attend this restaurant that you have here."
Right.
This fucking dilapidated, cobweb-filled fucking shithole, and even after getting a knife pull on them, they sit down at the table and order water.
What do you want?
A glass of water.
4 waters. Is that all?
No. I want the Villa Scalapini. I want a Fettuccine Alfredo. A bottle of Fettuccine in 1981.
The only thing we serve is tongue. You boys like tongue? That's all?
What drinks do they get?
Bourbon?
Is it bourbon?
Oh, I thought it was just dirty water.
I thought it was like alcohol.
I thought it was alcohol, honestly.
No,
I thought it was like beer or bourbon. Yeah, bourbon.
All these years, I thought the idea was supposed to be the place had rusty pipes and the water was just disgusting.
I
don't know what they gave
That's
him.
like beyond Flint, Michigan. Like that, it's like bourbon colored.
It is.
Yeah. I thought they were trying to like poison them or just give them something like, oh, you want water? Here's some water.
Here, die of alcohol poisoning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing is it's got to be like 18 ounces of it in each. How much do you need to give to a 12-year-old?
That's like not even a double. That's a triple.
Right?
Like,
But they never specify what it is, like we're saying.
and they don't drink it for sure.
Yeah, they don't drink it. I wouldn't know.
I ain't fucking with that. These fucking insane people. There's Jake Fratelli in there talking Italian.
Yes.
There's, of course, Mama Fratelli.
Robert Davi is an actual trained opera singer.
Clearly.
He like in real life, he went to school for it. He's performed as a singer before. He's cut albums as a singer. And he apparently can actually sing in Italian quite well.
You're ruining it!
Is he in Boardwalk Empire? He played some gangster movie. I swear that's that actor.
He's been in a bunch of other stuff. I don't remember.
You're not thinking of
him.
Showgirls?
Maybe. No.
We did see Showgirls, and he was like the guy that ran the strip club that Elizabeth Berkley worked at.
He was in Boardwalk Empire, I think.
I don't remember him being in Boardwalk Empire.
He was one of the gangsters.
You might be right. But Mikey asked to use the bathroom when they're in there, and he kind of goes downstairs, and he's scoping the place out because Mikey realizes that this is the end of the line on the map where the X leads.
Right.
So somewhere in here, he believes treasure is buried. That's like his first thought. That would be anyone's thought, right? At the X, you dig,
right,
and then you find the treasure. But the X is in this building, so he's trying to find like whatever's the lowest point in this building, and there is like a basement.
Yeah.
He kind of makes his way down there, and this is where we get our first glimpse of the It, Alan. That's what he calls it before we learn the name is Sloth. What were your thoughts on seeing this guy?
Well, I knew it was Sloth because everybody knows. I guess
even though you haven't seen this movie.
Yeah. Unless you've never seen anything about this movie, because Sloth is like one of the characters. Everyone has the picture of him, so I knew it was him, but they kind of show only the backside, and he's like chained up and watching a TV. And then only later, I guess, spoiler, you find out it's one of their brothers, or it's like they just chained him up there.
Yep, it's the third Fratelli brother.
Yeah.
He's locked up in there.
That's kind of dark.
It is, right? And we got, Jake singing in his face, and Sloth doesn't like it. But this is about where Brad shows up, and he kind of gets him out of there.
Right.
Brand, I call him Brad, but it's Brand. I gotta remember that. Brand has been tasked with, just bringing them back home. I think the mom doesn't want Mikey outside because he's got, health issues, right?
Yeah, he's asthmatic.
He mentions a couple other things later, I think, too.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right.
Not too long after, Andy and Steph kind of show up. They have ditched Troy because Troy, according to Andy, was perving on her, right, Steve?
Yeah, he was trying to use the rear view mirror in his car to look down her blouse.
But what we see visually is that he's looking up her skirt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So maybe he was doing both.
Yeah, it looked to me like he was trying to look up her skirt, but she says blouse, so maybe it was both. Yeah. And yeah, definitely pretty pervy.
Come on, Bran, please. Yeah. What if we find something, huh? A couple more minutes isn't gonna hurt.
Come on, Mikey, we're going right now.
Hey, Bran.
No, listen to your fight, brother.
Give him a few minutes. As long as you stay here with me.
Wait, quiet. Yeah, listen to her. She knows what she's talking about. She's a team. Let's go.
So now we have kind of the whole gang together in this location, right? The Goonies, the 4 younger boys, the older brother, and then the 2 older girls who I'm led to believe are Brand's age, right? Andy and Steph.
Yeah, they're supposed to be high school age, a bit closer to Brant and slightly older than the other kids.
Exactly. Now, Andy and Brand clearly have a thing for each other. That's kind of something we see throughout this journey. But more importantly, they scope the place out. There is a bit of arguing about whether or not they should do this, because some of the kids are scared. Brand just wants them to leave. But they do eventually make their way downstairs after the Fratellis have left.
Yeah.
The Fratellis go to dispose of a body.
Brand's mostly on a mission to get Mikey to go back home, because that's what his mother demanded.
But then Chunk spills the water because he is clumsy.
He knocks over the sparklets.
The sparklets cooler. And then they find out the water goes to a drain and there's a whole lower level.
Yep. They find kind of the next point in their journey, right? So it was they were at home, they found the map. The map led them to this spot. And then where do they go from this spot? They find kind of basically a secret entrance. Something that apparently no one's ever found. There was a building built around this place and no one ever found it except for one.
Yeah, the one guy.
One famed figure in history, Chester Copperpot.
Is he Oswald Copperpot? His cousin?
Yeah, I was going to say I was going to call him Cobblepot.
Right.
It was Colin Farrell who found it.
You and I were not thinking of the same penguin.
What's the matter? You don't want to be friends with me? Huh? You don't want to be my friend?
Call me Oz.
So he found it at some point, but other than him, I guess like no one's ever really ventured into this area. So it's a new discovery. It's kind of exciting for them.
I was just going to say, it seems like a lot of people treat it like it's mostly a hoax, like an urban myth. Oh, yeah, these pirates were here and they left treasure behind in caves, blah, blah. Yeah, who cares? It seems like nobody's really gone looking because nobody thinks it's real.
But before they even go down there, they're kind of like checking out this room, and Data's like tinkering with some machine.
Oh, this part's weird.
Yeah, what does he find, Alan?
He finds like a counterfeit money machine, or like a counterfeit money printer.
Yeah.
And then he starts freaking out because he's like, we're rich. Which I was like, this kid, your kid's counterfeit money. Like, all our problems are solved. He starts freaking out with nothing. Like, it's totally fine, guys. We're just counterfeiting money now.
$50 bill. $50 bill. $50 bill. $50 bill.
Bills?
$50 bill! Guys! There's a hangers of the $50 bill! We have the money to save you! Come on!
Well, they don't even understand it's counterfeit at first, which is really weird because it's like just the front side of 3 consecutive
like
bills
really
printed on
shitty.
paper. And it's like, do you think that that's how money comes? Do you think that's how your parents get money from the bank? It's not even the whole bill. Turn the page over.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It's fake $50 bills printed on letter-sized sheets of paper.
Exactly. It looks like it came out of
And
an
it
early
looks
inkjet,
bad.
or a colored dot matrix. It's like an
And you
Okie
just like
data.
pumping them out too. It's just like printing a bunch of them.
And Data thinks they're real at first, and then everyone goes along with it for like 10 seconds.
Right, until Brand's like, yo, this is fake, you bunch of idiots.
Like, it's like he doesn't immediately have that realization. He like takes a few stacks, looks it over, and is like, wait a minute. Something about this is off.
It
Right.
looks so bad too.
It's like, so none of you have ever seen any denomination of bill ever then? Because even if you've only seen singles, you'd know that that's...
I must have been 8 years old when I saw this movie for the first time.
Yeah.
Perhaps younger.
Right.
And even then, I was like, that ain't real money.
Yeah, there's no way that's money.
It's me like yelling at the screen for the first time ever in my life saying, no, that's not real, guys. Like, and then Bran has that realization because he's the oldest. He's been around the block. He knows. If he wasn't there, they would have just go and tried to fucking spend it at the local grocery.
Brings up the whole question: why does that machine even exist? Are the Fratellis making bad counterfeit money?
Yes.
Yeah.
They are. And in fact, Jake, when he shows up initially, when they enter the restaurant, he doesn't see the kids and he's just kind of shouting to his mom, not looking in her direction, saying like, how am I supposed to work with this ancient piece of shit or something like that?
Yeah.
So he's down there trying to get the counterfeit press to work.
Right.
Now, we're going to go into the second line of Data that I love in this movie. I have been quoting this my entire fucking life. When Bran says, it's fake, Data goes,
They're bogus. They're phony.
I
They're phony
knew
bills.
these people were phony.
Just ruined his dreams.
he's like really trying to cling to the idea that it's real. But I fucking love the way he says that line. Something about his delivery, dude, just makes me laugh. And it's not, I'm not hating on him.
No,
I genuinely like it. Like,
Me too. He's got so much personality. He's the most kid of all of them. It's great.
absolutely. And I was always trying to like make gadgets and inventions too when I was a kid because of him. This movie was very like formative for my life because I wanted to make gadgets, partially because of Data in this movie, but also because of all the movies of this era. And I also wanted to go on adventures and discover things.
Right.
Like I had this idea that like one day I'd be out with my cousins riding bikes around town and we'd find something cool.
Oh, yeah, you're going to come across a dead body or pirate treasure or something. All right, a gun.
A gun.
Yeah.
A heroin needle.
Right. Oh, God, yeah. It's every kid's dream.
But, you know, like, as a kid from our generation, I think, like, movies like this is the reason we were outside all the time.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Absolutely one of them. I mean, the kids were always out on their bikes. I was always out on my bike or a skateboard or rollerblades or whatever. And, like, what else? God, we watched something else where we talked about how it's such a trope. They had parts laying around to build something.
Little Monsters.
That's what it was. There you go. Yeah. You know, so yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's just such a recurrent thing. This Little Monsters, Pee-wee, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, 100%.
So while they're in this room, before they make their way down the passageway, Chunk picks up a scent, Wolverine style. He's got those heightened senses. You know how like in X-Men comics, like it'd be all the X-Men in a room, and then it would be like a close-up frame of Wolverine's nose, and it would say sniff.
Right.
And like, you know, some shit's about to go down.
Right.
That happens with Chunk. He smells ice cream.
In a freezer, somehow.
Yeah, through the freezer door.
Right.
See, you guys, you never listened to me. I said that there was going to be trouble, but you didn't listen to me. You guys are crazy. You know, you guys are self-destructive. There's a funny farm and it has your names written all over it. But I'm getting out of here. I smell ice cream. They got Swenson. Oh, they got Baileys and cream, and they got Mississippi mud, and they got chocolate eruption, and they got apple, and they got grape. They got grape and super duper chocolate eruption, and
It doesn't make any sense. You can't smell ice cream.
It's like a magnet for Rocky Road.
How could you even smell that, like what it's comprised of? Like,
right?
Maybe you could smell a flavor.
Yeah.
But how could you smell like the material of ice cream? He's like, I smell ice cream. He like bursts through the freezer door and he's like naming off all the flavors. And he names some insane flavors. First of all, he's like, they got chocolate delight and stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds right. And then he's like, they got apple. And I'm like,
yeah,
apple?
Yeah, I've always, ever since the first time I saw that movie, I've been like, where can I find apple ice cream?
Never had apple ice cream.
And then he's like, and they got grape. And I'm like, what the fuck is this kid talking?
I don't think
Grape?
Cold Stone even has those. Like,
go to any ice cream shop and ask for grape. They're going to tell you to get the fuck out.
like, sir, come on.
Oh, I see you're a Goonies fan.
Right?
Another Goonies asshole showing up asking for grape.
Sir, this is a
Do
Wendy's.
the truffle shuffle and get out.
Right?
This is a Wendy's.
You're the person this week asking for apple or grape ice cream. I mean, it's like possible though, right?
I guess.
It could be. Yeah, I mean, there's grape soda, right?
Yeah, I mean,
there's grape candy.
It's not impossible.
You don't really see grape ice cream like ever. Yeah. It's an interesting. I've never thought about it before. Right now, I don't think I've ever seen watermelon ice cream either. Like,
we're on to something, guys.
Right?
Wacky ice cream.
God.
And then the Fratellis return, and the Fratellis are in the upper level of the restaurant. The kids are in the lower level, so they hear them. They hear the footsteps, and they hear the brothers fighting. It's Jake and Francis. And these fucking guys hate each other, man. It's so good. I love how much they hate each other. They like immediately pull guns on each other over pizza. Like,
come on, eat my pepperoni. You want your pepperoni? Huh? Come on, let's kill each other over the pepperoni.
I said, put that gun away now.
Always take your side, man, right? You always like them better.
That's right.
and like I said, the mom just hates Jake. Like, she's on Francis's side. She's a Joe Pantoliano fan, right. And I can't blame her.
Well, you know, it's because it's all part of Cypher's personal Matrix program. So, of course, he'd be the favorite.
Oh, this is his Matrix? This is where they send him back?
This is his first trip through the Matrix, yeah.
The first iteration before it reboots.
Yeah, and then it rebooted to what we saw in the film. Yeah.
So the kids, they do escape through the tunnel passage underneath the fireplace because they realize they can't just go upstairs. They'll be caught. So Mikey says, you know, this is the only way. So they go down there. They fucking leave Chunk's fat ass behind. And it's like they forget him for a second. They leave him in the freezer. And then Chunk gets out of the freezer. And while they're down there, they're just like, Chunk, go get the cops. Peace.
We forgot that Chunk finds the dead body in the freezer.
He does, yeah. So, like, the dead body isn't super important other than to say that, like, the Fratellis are really bad.
Yeah.
Like, they kill people.
A guy.
Yeah.
They murdered two, one of which we see kind of the body being carried off, which is why they were gone for a little while.
Right.
And then there's this one, which, credit to this actor playing the corpse. He is fucking good, dude.
So, this is another great one from the commentary. Apparently, they did something like 35 takes of that, and Donner every time kept telling Jeff Cohen to hit him harder and more aggressively, and eventually after something like 30 takes, that actor was like, you guys have to cut, this kid is killing me.
Yeah, because Chunk is like pushing his body around, right?
Right?
Like, yeah, he's like kind of manhandling him.
He's like falling on him and he's like pushing him.
Yeah. But, that actor, dude.
He was great.
Great as a corpse.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There is kind of a weird moment where, like, he has the corpse makeup where he looks like he's been cold in the fridge for a long time. Where he has, like, the blue makeup.
Yeah.
There's, like, a moment where it has him without it.
Oh.
And then it comes back and it shows him with it again. There's a couple fumbles in the movie like that.
Yeah, there's a moment when Mikey is trying to convince Bran to keep going and follow the trail of the map or keep going to find the treasure. And if you listen closely enough, when Mikey's arguing back, he actually calls him Josh. Calls Josh Brolin Josh. He only says it the once, but you can catch it if you're listening for it.
I'm going to try to find that.
Right.
I didn't notice that.
There's nothing buried under there.
There is something buried under there.
It's the 20th
The
century,
map
Mike.
says there's buried something under there, and there's gotta be.
Chunk does escape and is almost immediately apprehended by the Fratellis when he makes his way to the road. But there's another fumble here because, Chunk runs out to the road. He flags down the first car he sees. It just so happens to be the Fratellis, who I guess probably noticed him and went out to the road in their car, in their ORV.
Right.
But he starts singing, right?
Yeah.
Jake Fratelli starts singing. And you can see his face in the rear view. It cuts away, it cuts back, and you still hear the singing, but his mouth isn't moving.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh.
And then they capture Chunk and they put him with Sloth.
Yeah.
They do eventually put him with Sloth, yeah, but not before a intense interrogation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they got a blender and they're threatening to stick his hand and his arm in it, and Mom is dropping tomatoes into it to show him what's going to happen. And Jeff Cohen says they put some kind of rubberized mixer thing in it, and I don't know who, I can't remember who it was, but the AD or the prop director, somebody like that, was showing it to him before they started shooting the scene. He was like, look, it's totally safe. Even if your hand goes into it, nothing's going to happen. He even stuck his own hand in it to prove. And then, but Cohen said, I didn't care. Like, it's still the idea of having my hand put in it actually frightened the shit out of me, and that the reaction was largely real.
That's pretty dark too. Like, they're gonna put this kid's hand in a blender. Like,
right?
Those are some fucked up people.
Yeah, the Fratellis are like your classic irredeemable evil villains, right? Like they have no nuance whatsoever.
Not even they're gonna kill the kid. They're just gonna put his hand in a blender. That's like sadistic.
Yeah,
it's like Jesus.
I love it. It's a good scene because like. They're like, spill the beans, Chunk. Tell us everything. And like, he immediately tells them where Mikey is, and they just don't believe him.
Right? Yeah, he gives up the information right off the bat, and they're just like, no, come on, none of your BS.
But then he goes into a whole thing where he tells them like every bad thing he did.
Yeah, that's what he thinks they're asking.
Fourth grade, like I did this. And
he doesn't get it because they say, "Tell me everything."
He's like, "I'll tell you everything." He's like, "It was me who did that, and I blamed him."
Pushed my sister down the stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, he pushed his sister down the fucking flight of stairs. Chunk, man, I know he's one of the good guys, and he makes good with Sloth, and that's like his ultimate redeeming quality. But pathological liar.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure, in addition to the blender thing, I'm pretty sure this is the scene I remember them saying Donner specifically told Cohen to think about his own mother actually dying to get him to cry.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's rough, man.
It is rough.
That's you don't do that to a kid. What's going on? What is he, Stanley Kubrick?
Apparently Dick Donner was pretty rough with the kids. Yeah, but at least Kubrick only did the grown-ups, right?
It's true.
And Ridley Scott.
Damn.
He was really not nice to her on The Shining, though, like in a nasty way. Anyway.
Yeah, famously so.
Tell me where your other little friends are.
The fireplace.
Don't lie to me.
Honestly, we went over to Mikey's dad's place and we found a map that said that underneath this place there's buried treasure.
Well, don't give us none of your bullshit stories, huh?
Hey, kid. I want you to spill your guts. Tell us everything. Everything.
Everything. Okay, I'll talk. In third grade, I cheated on my history exam. In fourth grade, I stole my Uncle Max's toupee and I glued it on my face when I played Moses in my Hebrew school play. In fifth grade, I knocked my sister Edie down the stairs and I blamed it on the dog.
But yeah, Chunk tells the stories. The big one, of course, was when he like did the fake puke.
Yeah.
At the movie theater, and he like did it over the balcony.
Right.
And caused everyone to start puking on each other.
Just the retching sound. It's great.
What I like about this scene is that, like, Jake Fratelli loves this.
Yeah.
Like, he is thoroughly enjoying all these stories. He has, by the time it cuts back to Chunk, he has his arm around him like he's his best friend.
Right.
And he's looking at him and he's laughing and he looks back at his mom and like he's really enjoying this. He's like, this is good shit. But like Francis and the mom are like, what the fuck is wrong with you, kid? They're like, you're worse than us.
Right.
Like, you're fucking evil, man. So yeah, they do stick him with Sloth, and we're gonna come back to that in a little bit because I want to get back to the main Goonies on their adventure through the tunnel. They make their way through a few different like areas of this kind of like labyrinth style tunnel.
It's like a cavern almost.
Yeah.
There really are caves and caverns under the coastline along the rocks, along the coastline in that part of Oregon. Although the caves they were in were not real caves, they were on a soundstage.
Yeah. One of the first things they find is the pipes. They just find a bunch of pipes that are like, I don't know, underground water pipes. They kind of like shake them around and break them, right?
Yeah, and they do like shoves a water fountain up through the ground and hits a guy in the face. And
Troy gets like his...
blown off the toilet.
Yeah.
I actually like this scene. This is probably my favorite scene in the movie.
Because he's reading Guns and Ammo.
This is like one of my least, but But go off, King.
Yeah, me too. I never really liked this.
Well, it didn't really make sense. Well, I guess it made sense. They just found a bunch of random pipes, but I love this scene because they all just, for some reason, just went buck wild. They all just start hanging on the pipes, and they're all screaming and like just pulling on them, and just going, oh, they're trying to get everyone's attention.
Yeah.
So they're trying to escape, but the way they do it, they're just like, ah! They're all screaming and like doing pull-ups, and they're all spazzing out.
There's a part of it where they clearly cause a car to crash on the street above them.
Yeah.
But the timing of the way the sound effects come off doesn't make any sense because it's too fast.
The cops show up.
Yeah, it's like the siren's just there, and it doesn't make. They didn't time that correctly.
But the point of this, I would say this should be cut out, but the point of it is that they break a pipe and water kind of like blasts through some mud covering the entrance to the next room, so to speak.
Yeah.
The next part of the journey. So that's really the purpose of that. And they make their way in there. And they find the skeletal remains of Oswald Cobblepot. No, Chester Copperpot. Who I just want to say real quick, we do have a listener whose social media handle is Chester Copperpot.
It's awesome.
And I really hope he listens to this episode because I've talked to him on Instagram a little bit if I remember correctly. But anyway, Chester Copperpot is a skeleton. He's been there for a long time. At least 50 years, I think.
He's supposed to have been down there since the late 30s or the early 40s, something like that.
Something like that. And Data looks at him and says, oh, he's dead for sure.
A skeleton?
It's a
he
skeleton.
He got stuck under like a trap or something.
He's under a huge boulder. There was a trap set off and he got crushed under it.
Yeah.
And, they do check his wallet. They confirm that's Chester Copperpot, which tells them they're on the right track.
Right.
That's one of the things that this scene is meant to show us. And they continue along, but not before setting off a trap. Alan, do you remember the trap they set off?
Boulders. There's like multiple boulders though. It's like the Mario game with the thwomps.
Yes.
Where they just come down and they keep coming down.
Yeah. How did a bunch of pirates stuck in underground caves build that?
There's like multiple of them.
Right?
Maybe that's why Mikey says that One-Eyed Willie's the first Goonie, because he was the OG trap setter. He was the original Rube Goldberg machine setter-upper.
This is one of your tricks, isn't it, One-Eyed Willie? You wouldn't have gone through all this trouble if you weren't really hiding something, would you?
I know. So did I. It's okay. There's nothing to worry about.
You don't understand.
Don't be afraid.
He's dead for sure. I think he's the Chester Copperpot.
Chester who?
Who? Don't you guys remember from the attic? The news article. See, they said the last guy who went looking for the witch stuff, they said he went in, but he never came back out. But, see, that was like back in 1935. Oh, God, if he didn't make it out, and he was supposed to be an expert, what about us, guys? How are we going to get out of here, huh?
Don't worry about it. Just calm down. Positive.
A couple things here. They find candles. Mixed in with the candles is a stick of dynamite.
Yeah, and Data starts saying he's going to lay the dynamite out as a trap. I'm like, does none of you know what that is? He's going to literally blow himself up. He's going to blow a bunch of you up with him.
He's fine. Data knows what he's doing. Don't talk shit about 00 Negative.
No, I mean, look, I hate saying anything negative about Data, but 00 Negative's a great one too. But yeah.
Looking around with kids and dynamite.
He gets all mad when they call him 00 Negative. I'm not 00 Negative, 007 James Bond. We get it. That's the joke, man. You can tell he's very influenced by both James Bond, Roger Moore era gadgety James Bond, and like that old Mission Impossible series.
Oh, yeah.
From like the 60s?
60s, yeah, or early 70s, something like that, yeah.
So you can tell like that's his influence. To the point where like I think even the Mission Impossible team plays when he makes his big entrance earlier, you know? They make their way through this trap. They don't get crushed by the rocks. This one's a pretty easy one to avoid. As long as you move forward, you're safe, essentially. So they're okay. Brad opens up the passageway that follows through. There was like this big boulder in the way. And they hear something down there. And apparently it's prop bats, Steve.
Yeah.
Shut up and listen.
Maybe it's a way out.
Maybe it's the Fratellis.
Maybe Chump found the police.
Maybe it's another one of Willie's booby traps. Bran, God put that rock there for a purpose, and I'm not so sure you should move it or anything.
Hello?
They get swarmed by bats, and the girls go crazy.
The rubber bats?
The rubber bat.
It looks insane.
It does look insane.
It's so
a lot
corny.
of them.
Did you notice how fake they look?
Because they were just like shooting them with like plastic bats.
Right.
When they're hanging around their faces, they're just like on a string with...
Right? It's like those ones the rubber ones at Halloween stores.
Exactly like
Right.
that. When they get down through the bottom of that little cavern, they find what Andy describes as like a waterfall, and then there's all these coins everywhere. And for some reason, this is like a really memorable scene to me. This is where Dave Gruzin's score really picks up, and this music right here is just phenomenal. Like it's just gives me this great nostalgic feeling. But aside from that, you know, they see all these coins. They say, oh, it's a giant piggy bank. And they start kind of collecting them. Steve?
They realize that it's a wishing well downtown that all of them is familiar with. And Andy makes a comment about the coins representing dreams and tossing coins into it. And up at the top, Troy and two of his sycophant friends are fucking hanging around bullshitting. And Troy's pretending he's going to get Andy to go to bed with him at some point, bragging about that. And the kids at the bottom hear him and identify it's him. So Andy yells up to him to help by dropping the bucket so that they can be pulled up to the top. Why a wishing well still has a bucket, I don't know. Why they think something designed to carry a bucket with a few ounces worth of water is going to pull them all the way to the top, I don't understand. But that's the escape plan this group of geniuses comes up with. And Troy tosses a coin in, and one of them tosses the coin back up at him, which I think is kind of funny.
Yeah, me too. This is neat.
Right.
He catches it like perfectly too.
Right. I think he tosses it in right after bragging to his buddies that he's going to go all the way with Andy. So I think the part of it is supposed to be this sort of symbolic, like the coin comes back, it's not going to happen. She's not actually interested in you anyway.
It's like a wish denied.
Right. And
before we talk about like how it goes with Troy, there's a moment with Corey Feldman, right?
Yeah.
When they're collecting the coins, and it's either Andy or Steph who tells them, you can't...
It's Steph,
You can't take these coins. These are people's wishes.
Yeah.
Right? These are their dreams.
I'll take 2 coins. No, that's not fair.
Wait, stop. You can't do this.
Why?
Because these are somebody else's wishes. They're somebody else's dreams.
Yeah, But you know what? This one right here. This was my dream, my wish. And it didn't come true. So I'm taking it back. I'm taking them all back.
He says, "What about my dream?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Screw
What about-
everyone else." He's like, "These are mine too."
This one right here. This was my dream, my wish. So he says he's taking them all back, right?
Yeah.
What an asshole.
This that scene, it's a famous scene in the movie, I think. But like, what does it mean, Steve? What's he talking about?
I think it's supposed to be, that at this point, as far as they can see, they're still going to lose their homes in the neighborhood. Everything they thought was going to happen for them as a group is going away. And there's an implication they're all eventually just going to move to other states or other cities and not be around anymore. And he wants to take back all the unfulfilled dreams that he's leaving behind.
He's becoming a villain. He's gonna take it by force.
This is his first step into the music scene. He's taking his dreams back. They didn't happen, man. But it's funny, this scene, like, as a young adult, I used to hang out with this guy, and we used to just always make fun of this scene for some reason.
Right.
We just kind of clowned on him for, like, acting like his life is so difficult, you know?
Right.
Like, he's had such hardships.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, the things he's had to endure. But looking at it now as kind of an older guy, I think I've kind of circled back to the way I felt about this scene as a kid. I think it's kind of sweet and like,
yeah,
it's like, I kind of get it, kid, you know?
Right.
But back to what you were saying about Troy, the group is fully prepared to escape at this point because they actually didn't intend to pursue the treasure necessarily. They were just getting away from the Fratellis, which is why they went down this tunnel.
Right.
Mikey convinces them otherwise, though. He gives them a speech, essentially, and Mikey gives a few speeches in the movie.
He does.
He's very inspirational. He tells them that, our parents, they want what's best for us. It's their time up there. Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
Could have stated twice.
Yeah. And, like, he gets a lot of, like, slow nods from the group, It's like, they get it,
Look, if we keep going, someone's really gonna get hurt. Maybe dead. Besides, we gotta get to the police.
Maybe Chunk already got to the police.
Maybe Chunk is dead.
Don't say that. Never say that. Goonies never say die.
I'm not a Goonie. I want to go home.
I forgot. But still, don't you realize? The next time you see Sky, it'll be over another town. The next time you take a test, it'll be in some other school. Our parents, they want the best of stuff for us. But right now they gotta do what's right for them. 'Cause it's their time. Their time. Up there. Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here. That's all over the second we ride up Troy's bucket.
What this scene really means in the story is, like, they're committing to the goal that he has, which is, like, finding what they call the rich stuff. They want to find this treasure.
Right.
And save their homes. And that's essentially what he convinces them at this point. So Bran, Andy, even Steph, they are now, like, committed to, okay, let's see this thing through. And they don't go up there with Troy. I think this is, no, it's not the last time we see Troy, but it's one of the final times we see Troy.
Yeah.
Andy, instead of going up the bucket, leaves Troy's, like, letter jacket.
Yeah, I think it's her cheerleading jacket, isn't it?
It says Troy on it.
Oh, okay, never mind. I'm remembering it correctly. But yeah, it's another moment. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Because he pulls it up, and he's pulling it up like he's pulling one of them up. But it's just a jacket. Did you really think a jacket was a human body?
Like 1 pound?
1 pound?
Versus
yeah.
100?
Right? Like, yeah, even Andy's got to weigh 90 or 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, fucking, there's no way you thought that was a person.
He just thinks he's so strong. It's effortless to him. And he says,
Andy! You Goonie!
Fucking crybaby.
Your
Austin look a little bit rugged. A little bit.
Chocolate.
Shall we say?
You want a candy bar?
You do now.
Look, I got a Baby Ruth, sir.
Let it stand. Pardons. And now the final crowning touch to this cake. Take about a spoon of cocoa.
I'm gonna throw it to you, okay?
Put it in a very small sieve. You shake your sieve.
But let's talk about Chunk, Alan. Chunk is locked up in a cell with Sloth. Now, Sloth is chained to the wall. He's got a TV, though, where he watches cooking shows and old pirate movies, specifically Captain Blood, is what they're watching.
They actually shot that footage. According to the commentary, it's what Donner was saying. They spent something like 2 weeks or 3 weeks shooting the pirate movie footage so they could have it on the TV.
It's not an old actual pirate movie called Captain Blood?
See, it's not a movie I'm familiar with otherwise, but that is a comment they made. Maybe they were joking and I misunderstood it, but it didn't seem like a joke. That he claims that they shot something like 10 minutes worth of footage so that they could show it on the TV.
Maybe they shot the cooking show.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
Yeah. I think the pirate one might have been a real movie, but that was probably what they were referencing.
That could be it.
Because they're kind of like back-to-back almost.
Right.
Where they're making the chocolate cake.
Yeah.
Alan, what goes down with Chunk and Sloth here?
Chunk befriends Sloth with his conveniently placed Baby Ruth bar.
Yeah, he launches it at Sloth's face.
Yeah. And you got to see, he makes it a point of Baby Ruth. They got the advertising. I guess Baby Ruth was pretty big in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. And the cast is actually teasing Donner during part of the commentary because they've got the Baby Ruth and Pepsi and Domino's pizza boxes.
Yeah,
and they're like, how many sponsors did you get for this movie?
Baby Ruth was definitely one of them. But he bonds with Sloth over the candy bar.
You smell like fizzed.
They start feeding each other, right? Chunk takes some of it and he puts it in Sloth's mouth. Sloth does the same. And it seems like things are going to get a little weird when Sloth picks up Chunk and kisses him on the mouth. And you're like, what is he about to do? Sloth's been locked in here for a long time.
Right?
I have a question about that. That's kind of dark too. Was he always Sloth, or was he turned into that because he was locked in there?
Steve, what are your fan theories?
I think he was born that way, is the idea.
And then they locked him in there.
And he's just been, they've been keeping him away. And John Matsoukas, who was an NFL player in real life, huge dude, apparently Cohen didn't know that Matsoukas was going to pick him up. In fact, Donner, before they shot that take, apparently told Cohen that Matsoukas had a bad back from football, so he's not going to pick you up or anything like that. And then it came as a surprise. So when he screams, Cohen claims when he screamed from being picked up, it was a real scream. So he didn't know it was coming. He'd been told it wasn't going to happen.
And thinking about his mom dying in the blender, they really tortured this kid.
Yes.
He had it out for this kid.
And it's weird because the total reverse end of the coin, since his name came up, it's a quick one, but the kid who played Danny in The Shining, Kubrick specifically made sure that he wasn't around for anything that he'd find violent or scary. That I can't remember his name now, but the actor who played Danny in the movie has stated numerous times in interviews over the years he didn't understand that it was a horror movie until way after the fact because they kept it away from him. Yeah.
He's reverse Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, exactly.
Did he torture the other kids or did he just torture Cohen?
It sounds like he was the worst with Cohen, but the other kids all say that he had certain recurring things that he would say to them. Like he would constantly remind them to have big eyes every time they had facial close-ups. And he had some chant about how the lens is your best friend, and apparently there was stuff that he did to the others.
That sounds more or less like standard direction, though.
Yeah.
Poor Chunk. That's okay, though. Yeah, Chunk and Sloth become buddies. The Fratellis start kind of the chase. They pursue the kids through the tunnel after they see a bunch of bats fly out of there. They realize there is something in there, and they're kind of following along now, so they're on their tail. That's kind of like a threat in the background. They do find Chester Copperpot, And one funny thing is they pick up the wallet
Yeah.
where the kids found the ID, and one of them says, the kids cleaned him out. Like, they checked the wallet for money.
Yeah.
And, like...
I think we forgot the part where Sloth breaks, like, the chains, though.
Yeah, we learned he's super strong, right?
He's trying to get the candy bar, or it's something ridiculous, I think, if I remember.
Yeah, I think it's the candy bar.
He's trying to get the candy bar, and he wants it so bad, he, like, breaks the chains out of the wall. So that's how Sloth escapes, because they'll come in later.
Speaking of Sloth, I do think part of his deformity is caused by being dropped on the head.
Yeah, I mean, there's a joke later from Mama Fratelli that she dropped him twice. So maybe, absolutely. He apparently had to spend 5 hours every shooting day to get the makeup on. And one of the two eyes was lined, I think it was his left, was lined up with his real eye so he could see through it. But the droopy one was a false eye with an animatronic eyelid on it. And he couldn't see through it all. And they had to figure out how to sequence his blinking with his real eye. And he'd have to do a special count, so that the prop guy who was working the animatronics in the face could make the other eyelid go off at the same moment.
It's really complicated.
It was really complicated. It was apparently terrible for him, and he was super nice about it the whole time. Everyone describes him as having been a really nice guy. And there was one day shooting where they were near the water, I think on the pirate ship, and Donner specifically told the kids, do not get his head wet. He just sat through 5 hours worth of makeup to get that on, and first take they got his head wet.
Ooh.
Yeah.
There's going to be hell to pay with Richard Donner.
Right?
Just for that, I'm going to torture Jeff Cohen some more.
Yeah, exactly.
So the kids are, they're down there and they're figuring out kind of like how to move forward. They got the triple stones and copper bones, key placement on the wall, right?
Right.
Which they trigger the door opening mechanism, which is also a trap.
Right.
And this trap causes Data to fall through the floor, seemingly to plummet to his death onto a bed of spikes, Steve.
Pitfall. Yeah.
He's doomed.
He's doomed.
What is he going to do? Like, how does he get out of this situation?
He's going to use the same set of red plastic chompers that Pee-wee has, except he's got a pair of them, and they're attached to slinkies, and he just shoots one out of each arm, and they grab onto the rock, and they save him about 2 inches from the spikes.
I remember he shot one out of his belt.
Maybe it is just one.
It's from his wrist, though, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The pinchers of peril.
Yeah.
And it's so strong it can support his weight.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, that's a miracle. They even joke on that. But yeah, he's got the plastic clamp and the slinky, and it holds his whole body weight up.
But he saves himself. What a legend.
Right?
He's gone. Oh no. Don't be dead. Pinchers of peril. You guys, I'll be saved by my pinchers of peril. He's alive. He's alive. He's alive.
He's the fucking goat, dude.
He's the goat. He's Data.
No, anyone else would have died.
Right, absolutely.
What was Chunk gonna do if he fell through?
Andy, she'd be fucked, man.
Oh, absolutely.
She'd be a dead corpse down there.
Just so happened to be the one guy who had the tools to save himself.
There were so many different skeletons on this set during shooting. Martha Plimpton says that at some point, somebody tried to convince her, and she actually believed it as a teenager for at least a little bit, that the skeletons were real and had been flown in from some other country, and that the skin and flesh on them was real. And she believed it and didn't want to be anywhere near them.
So when Data falls down there, he says to everyone after he saves, like, I'm okay. And then he looks around and we get another great line from Data.
Guys, I'm in another room.
Which I had no idea what the fuck he meant as a kid.
Right.
Like, I didn't, like, of course you're not in the same fucking room. You're in another room. Like,
right.
What kind of shit is that to say? Like,
what's wrong with you?
I was in one place, now I'm in another.
Right.
But what he's trying to communicate is that this is like the path forward through the tunnel, right? Mm-hmm. This is how we continue the journey. So off screen, they lay down some rope, and I guess everyone kind of shimmies down there.
Right.
And I only know that because the Fratellis make their way down there. Also, behind the Fratellis, we got Chunk and Sloth now following. So it kind of like in the front, we got the Goonies, the main group. Behind them, the Fratellis are pursuing. And then behind them is Sloth and Chunk.
Right.
So they're all going to kind of meet eventually. But that's where we are right now. First, we got to take a piss break. Not us, but, you know, the characters in the movie.
Oh, yeah, that's weird. They put that scene in there. They're all like going in like the little cave bathroom thing.
Yeah, they arrange which cave is which bathroom, right?
Right.
The little boy's room and the little girl's room.
And then the men's room, which is somehow different from the boys' room.
The men's room. Because you got to feel like a grown-up, you know?
Right.
You gotta feel like a man. And
man's man.
piss next to your friends.
Right.
Like a man.
This is the most macho thing I think any guy can do.
But this scene is really just to set up something between Andy and Mikey, Steve. There's a couple weird things in this movie, kind of in this area, in terms of the sexuality of this movie, which I feel weird saying because they're all children. But But what happens?
Yeah, it's weird because as a 10-year-old, I had a weird crush on Carrie Green.
Yeah, when you're a kid watching this movie,
right,
you do.
Right. But it's weird to think about now because I just turned 42 and I'm like, you're a fucking weirdo. Stop thinking about that. But so she decides she wants to lure Bran in for a kiss and thinks that she can do it by sounding like she's in distress. An idea that Steph immediately says is stupid. But she starts yelling like she needs help, and Bran, who's in the middle of pissing, doesn't really care all that much and tells Mikey to go figure out what she's yelling about. And when Mikey goes in there, she just grabs him and kisses him, like full on the mouth and everything.
With her eyes closed, so she doesn't see him.
Right? And then she lets him leave, apparently without opening her eyes, and then Steph asks how it was, and she says that it was weird, like kissing her brother, and asks if Bran has braces.
Wrong way, lover boy. It's this way.
Thanks.
Uh-huh. Okay, you kissed. Now tell.
There's something weird.
What? What is it?
Does Bran wear braces?
Yeah, so Mikey's kind of seeing stars a little bit, you know? He's kind of like a cartoon character after they get a big smooch. He's like all like dazed and like, whoa. But yeah, she kisses a little boy.
Yeah, absolutely. And she actually says during the commentary that she felt really uncomfortable afterward about having kissed him because Sean Astin was really several years younger and she was already a teenager.
Yeah, clearly. I
mean, right.
But, you know, it's kind of like a joke in that Andy and Bran have been like having moments where they almost kiss.
Yes.
Constantly. And then it's like, oh, it's going to happen here.
Right.
Nope, not here.
Not here.
Nope, save it for later. But the Fratellis show up. They're on their ass. And the kids kind of like panic. They realize they got to fucking start moving it. So they make their way into this really cool skull cave that we only see very briefly, Steve. But it's fucking cool looking, right?
Yeah.
It's like the next part of the journey is like this cave that is like just carved as like a skull.
Yeah. All the sets are fantastic. They were on 4 separate sound stages at the Warner backlot in Burbank, including at least what at the time was the largest stage that Warner had. And they built the shit out of those things.
Don't be a fool, Dana, come on! No, Dana. I got a great idea, you guys! Slick shoes! Slick shoes? Are you crazy? Dana!
That's good enough. I can see the
Is this where Data does the shoe thing with the oil?
This is about there, yeah. Do you remember kind of like the scene that surrounding that, Alan?
Yeah, they're running from the Fratellis, and they have to cross like this one log. But Data has this invention, of course. He's like, oh, shoes with oil, or whatever he calls it.
Slick shoes?
Yeah, slick shoes. And his shoes like open up in the back and spray a bunch of oil across the one path so the Fratellis can't cross.
Data is fucking clutch, bro. Alan, how can you hate this kid? The Fratellis try to cross, and it causes them to do a fucking backflip.
He's just running around with shoes filled with oil?
Yeah, bro.
I mean, he's the James Bond of the kid world. I mean, that's the whole bit.
He's clutch.
He's clutch. He saves everybody.
So, you know, when they try to cross, they both get nut-shotted.
They do.
Slippery.
Both Fratelli brothers. There's also a moment, too, when, like, the Fratellis see the kids, and one of them goes, "Stop or I'll shoot."
Right.
And he shoots above him, and it just causes like rocks to fall on his own head.
Right. Yeah, they're trying to escape with the map. The Cary Green Andy goes back for the map. He's like, "Stop! I'll shoot." It's like, you're really gonna shoot these kids? What are you even worried about?
They're gonna put Chung's hand in a blender.
Right.
What if they just executed one of them? Like, what if they just shot
Right.
and fucking Steph was just done? Like,
This whole movie gets very different very quickly.
All of them escape except one. But nobody dies in this movie.
yeah, no, it's not that kind of movie, man.
Yeah.
This is 80s adventure time.
Like, they all live and it's happily ever after. Soon.
Soon, but not yet. Because first, they gotta get to the next room, right? So each room kind of has its own mechanism for
Right.
them to proceed forward. And this room that they're in, with their Fratellis not far behind, has this bone organ piano device, right, Steve? They gotta play the bones.
This
Yeah.
thing's metal.
Right.
Dude, it is. It's
Straight out of Metalocalypse.
It's fucking sick.
It really is.
It's fucking cool. Steve, what do they have to do here exactly?
They have to play exactly the right composition on this piano. If they do it correctly, it opens up the entrance or exit, however you want to put it, to the next area. But if they do it incorrectly, for every incorrect note that gets played, a piece of the floor below them falls away, and too many wrong notes will result in the whole thing just collapsing and them falling to their death. And Andy's the only one who knows how to play piano or read music even at all, and she's obviously very new to it. So she's trying to play out these notes, but she's making mistakes along the way, and pieces of the floor start coming out.
Now, can you explain in detail how the piano/floor mechanism works? How does it work, Steve, that when they play the wrong note, part of the floor breaks out from under them?
This is a very interesting question. Again, from a bunch of pirates that were stuck in these caves for decades and ended up subsequently dying there.
It's insane. It's one of those things you definitely just have to go with,
You
right?
can't question it.
Fortunately, like, a kid doesn't really question it if you're really little.
Yeah.
Work would be involved to do that.
The first few times I saw this movie as like a child and into my early adolescence, I didn't think about that stuff at all. It's great, you know. And then it was only later, like probably after my 5th or 6th viewing of it, I was like, wait, some of this doesn't make any sense.
These pirates are like the greatest engineers in history.
Right? Just whatever you can find in the caves.
Like the greatest minds of modern times, like, were pirates that built all this shit.
Do you guys know that pirates had engineering degrees? I mean, it's incredible.
Like the most advanced civilization was like this group of pirates.
Hey, you weren't there. You don't know.
I don't know, man. But the Fratellis are pursuing, even though they get nutshotted. They kind of like are crawling their way up and approaching. And Data, the only one with any balls, goes to like push him back a little bit further, right? Data has so much shit on him. If you ever like see him up close, you'll see that like he's got an overcoat, and under it there's just tons of stuff. Like, the amount of weight he must have been carrying is insane.
He's geared out like Batman and Vader put together. I mean, he's just got everything on him.
It's like when you play a video game, the amount of like gear you carry. It really has all that shit.
Yeah, you go into your inventory, there's like 67 separate items, and all you're wearing is a t-shirt and a long pair of pants.
Yeah.
Like, how are you keeping all this?
But one of the things he's got is pretty useful. It's just a fist boxing glove that just comes out and like can punch someone right in front of you.
Which it did not look like he was wearing at any point prior to then. It's like, I've never noticed you had like the glove on your chest, but all right.
And oil in your shoes.
Right? I feel like it's like RoboCop, where they had to change which costume panels they put on him for different scenes in the movie. So like if his leg needed to open for the gun, you got to put that thing on Peter Weller.
Almost certainly.
You know, yeah.
But the boxing glove is pretty cool. What's funny about that to me, though, is like, I'm like, okay, that would be cool to have, right? And the thing comes out and it punches someone. Then I'm thinking, like, I could just punch someone.
Yeah, you
like,
just
I
punch
just
him.
use my own arm.
Like, how strong could it be? If it's too strong, it's going to knock him over. Like,
It's actually rocket propelled.
Yeah, it has like the PSI behind it.
Yeah, it's like a firecracker. So it's basically still the strength of like a 9-year-old.
He just has an explosive device on his chest.
Yeah, that's another thing. He's got none of his inventions work. He's got an explosive literally mounted directly on a sternum.
Don't blaspheme. Some of his inventions do work.
It's true.
Some of them are good, okay? The binoculars, they broke, sure, but that was a deleted scene, you know?
The chompers worked.
Slick Shoes was fucking legendary.
Shoes was genius. You know, that worked perfectly.
And he clobbers Francis with this boxing glove, man.
It does work the way it's intended, apparently.
He buys him some more time.
Right.
Hey, you guys! They're gone! They're not here!
So she's fucking up sometimes. She's succeeding sometimes with the organ or piano, whatever it is. The bones.
Bone organ.
Bone piano.
The bone piano. And the last note she has to play, she's not sure if she has to do A sharp or B flat. And that joke is kind of missed because immediately in response to that, Mikey says, well, if you don't get this right, we're all going to B flat.
Oh, it's right.
But the actual joke there, I don't know if you guys know this, A sharp and B flat are exactly the same note.
Oh, that's...
I was going to say that. I know.
Yeah. So, like...
There is no, like...
It's a win-win, right? So she's like, I don't know if it's A sharp or B flat. What am I going to do? It's like, you're fine. You got this. Like...
Just going back 30 seconds, but I thinking this is another Columbus trope, right? Because he wrote Home Alone also, didn't he? So, like, the adults are always getting beat up by all the kids' funny adventures. The hot door handle, the Hot Wheels on the stairwell.
Yep.
You know, yeah.
Oh, this is Columbus's bread and butter.
It really is.
Just making wild shit. Wild mechanical objects.
It's kind of like at the last moment, sort of like in the nick of time, they make their way through, and the door is lowered, and they escape this particular room. Steve, you said when you were a kid, this is where you felt some real tension, right?
Yeah,
like they're not going to make it.
Right. The first time I saw this movie, I must have been probably 8 or 9, about the same age as you. And this bit, I was like, whoa, maybe this is the part where something happens. Is the floor's falling out under them, and how are they going to get out of this? I was like, oh my God, I can't handle it.
Yeah, the building tension works on you, you know?
It worked on me at that age especially.
Such a great movie for that age.
Yeah.
So they make their way out of there, and they all like enter these like water slide chutes.
Water slide.
Yeah, and they used one of the chutes for all of the camera footage, but the kids were supposed to have gone down different ones. And according to what they say, most of them, when they come out the other end, you can see there's multiple holes coming out of the rock. Most of them were functional and could be ridden through, but Donner admits apparently they didn't. The commentary track I was listening to is from approximately the year 2000. It was really originally recorded for the DVD, not for the Blu-ray. But apparently the kids didn't know this up to the point the commentary was recorded. Donner says that they got that particular portion of the set and the pool below it done early enough in advance of actually needing it that some nights after shooting, he and the other adult members of the crew would wait for the kids to have left, and then they would use that as a water slide. And the bunch of them were just partying in the soundstage at night and taking rides down the water slide.
Hell yeah.
Drinking bourbon and sliding down.
Probably, yeah.
The water slide thing is like one of those things you see as a kid and you're like, I want to do that.
Every single one of them says that over the decades since they were in the movie, that's not only one of the parts they remember most, but have been asked about the most.
Dude, I love water slides. And who doesn't like water slides?
Looks like fun, right?
Yeah.
It does. I would have done it.
But they are spit out of the water slide into a giant body of water, into a giant cavern, bigger than one they've ever been in up until this point. And this is where they do not encounter a giant octopus, right, Steve?
Yeah, and this is another deleted scene that is also referenced later, even though it had been cut. When they're in the water below the pirate ship, Mouth is walking behind Steph through the water, and Steph keeps admonishing Mouth for apparently touching her leg, and he keeps saying, I'm not touching you. And it then turns out that there's this animatronic octopus in the water with them, and very reminiscent of the kind of thing that used to be
in hentai.
Well, that but the pre-Nemo submarine ride at Disneyland here in Anaheim, and it tries to take the two of them away, and they eventually scare it off by putting a Walkman headphones on it, make it listening to some music.
This scene is weird.
Yeah.
Because, like, the Walkman is playing music underwater, and
Yeah.
you hear it as the audience, but you hear it as if it's, like, slightly underwater.
Right.
Doesn't make any sense
Doesn't make any
whatsoever.
sense at all.
The octopus is, like, grabbing them, and you see its beak, and it's like, oh, shit, it's gonna, like, chomp their limbs off or something. This
Right.
is like Lord of the Rings. But Data does put the Walkman... Data, clutch.
Yeah, right?
Puts the Walkman in its mouth with the music playing, and the octopus, like you said, it gets scared away. But as a kid, I interpreted it as, like, the music, like, made it dance.
Yeah.
Like, the music made it happy, so it was, like, appeased.
Right.
Like, they satisfied it through music.
Yeah.
So it's, like, kind of one of those things where it's like, modern technology for the win. Because that little Walkman, that's, like, that's primetime modern tech in 1985.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, and the whole idea of portable, recordable audio was a huge deal.
Absolutely. So, it would be like putting a phone in its mouth or something now, right?
Right.
So you put Beyonce on YouTube and then you put it in its mouth.
I'll just run from Beyonce. You don't need to put it in my mouth. Like...
But they see the pirate ship. They see almost nearly the end goal of their quest here, which is One-Eyed Willie's pirate ship. This thing is epic. The music is epic. I'm going to once again talk about that score.
Yeah.
It just gives such a sense of wonder when they see the ship. It kind of reminds me of Hook. John Williams might have borrowed a little bit of this feeling from this score. I don't know exactly.
Some of the people who went on to be on the producer side of Hook were involved with this. So, yeah, absolutely.
Maybe they tempt Hook with the music from this.
Yeah, they could have. Absolutely.
What do you think about this ship, Steve?
That's a really incredible set. It took up most of the stage they were filming on. I love it. I've always loved the way it looks. It apparently really was multi-level. They didn't use different flat single-story sets for different parts of the ship. They really built it as a multi-level piece. The running story is that none of the kids were allowed on that soundstage prior to the day that they had to be to shoot, and that none of them could look in the direction of the boat until the moment they were doing the first take for that scene. During the commentary, Feldman claims that there was a point prior that he could see through the stage doors and he saw the ship, but every single other person in the room with him calls him a liar. So that story may not be true. But yeah, it's pretty fantastic. I mean, and it's really like, as it's supposed to be, the cherry on top of this incredible adventure Sunday for children.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They find the pirate ship. What a dream come true,
Right.
It's very Pirates of the Caribbean.
It is.
In that there's a lot of, like, skeletal remains on board.
According to Donner, Disney wanted some of the coins and stuff from the ship for the Caribbean ride. I don't know if it actually ended up happening or not.
On the ship, they start looking around, and this is another Data moment that I just got to point out, because he falls through some floorboards into the lower decks of the ship. And at this point, Data has just had enough of this bullshit, and he just, like, goes on this little mini rant to himself.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm tired of all this shit. People saying my fucking inventions don't work.
Right.
And, like, it extends to the point where, like, it cuts away to, like, other people nearby, and you still hear him ranting a little bit in the background.
Yes.
Why didn't you use the stairs?
Use the stairs! 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 The stupid guy's up there telling me to use the stairs when Data's falling. Data's hurt. Nobody's care anymore. He's okay. And some guy up there told me I have stupid inventions. And I've been spending months and months studying on them and inventing them. God, what a fun I'd have. Stupid inventions. Don't touch that. Why not? He's dead. He doesn't care.
Put that down.
Have some respect.
Put it down.
Like, apparently they were genuinely having fun filming, but this is also apparently after the point at which, like, they had all been soaked for weeks. Some of them had gotten sick. They felt like garbage. They were exhausted. Martha Plimpton and Feldman had already had the fight in the school trailer. Like, they really were at a point where it's just like, we were ready to be done shooting this.
So, like, that bleeds through to
right.
Ki Hui Kwan's performance, perhaps. Yeah, that's cool. But eventually, Alan, Mikey, Sean Astin, Samwise Gamgee himself,
Yeah.
Finds his way into the captain's quarters, and this is where they see the treasure. Because at first there's no evident treasure, like on the upper deck of the ship. They have to kind of seek it out. Why don't you tell us about Mikey's moment with the skeletal remains of One-Eyed Willie?
Oh, when they find the treasure, this is when they start looting everything. But Mikey tells them not to take the treasure in front of him because it's like his treasure.
Like One-Eyed Willie, even though he's dead, like they're gonna save him some, right?
Yeah, like that's like his. So he's like, take everything else. He's like, but don't take like that. That's even though he's dead, like that's his thing. So they take all the treasure except that one, or they just start loading up everything.
Steve, what do you think about the scene though with Mikey and Willie? It's like he's kind of reached his goal, right?
Yeah, it gets very sentimental about the whole thing, and sort of thanks Willie, calls him the original Goonie, you know? Yeah.
And I talked about, he says that because of the traps, but I was like half joking there. What do you think he means by Willie being the original Goonie?
The whole concept of like being an outsider who made a path for himself, found a way, did something amazing, had a big adventure. Yeah.
Killed a bunch of people, stole their money.
Yeah, you know. Was hiding in a cave from the rightful British persecutors who were following him to punish him for the crimes he'd actually committed. But, yeah.
True Goonie, this guy.
Goonies for life.
Charles Manson, Goonie.
Yeah, oh, yeah, the biggest Goonie of them all.
Yeah.
You know, Mark David Chapman.
God damn.
Right?
I don't want to be a Goonie anymore.
Yeah, I think I'm not part of this group.
What's that? What's the guy who shot the CEO?
Oh, Luigi,
whatever.
Mangione, yeah.
Is he a Goonie?
Yeah, he's definitely a Goonie. He's really getting treated like a Goonie, though, for real. People are like, this dude's a hero. He's like a modern Robin Hood.
Yeah.
So
you got to free him.
Right? Free the Goonie.
All right, so the definition of Goonies might be slightly in question here, but that's fine.
Right?
They find the rich stuff, and they kind of like forget that the Fratellis are like right behind them.
Yeah.
So of course the Fratellis catch up with them, and they are forced to relinquish their loot.
Right.
And that's kind of sad. But Data, with his fucking balls of steel, will not be taken alive, Steve. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna take these motherfuckers out. So Data walks up, chest out to the Fratellis, and he breaks out the boxing glove again, but this time it fucks up and it punches him in his own face. So
he's like, you motherfuckers don't even know I've survived the Temple of Doom. All right?
Outside! Okay, this is war. Don't get it up! I said outside! Come on! We will not be taken alive, Mikey! We? What do you mean we? It's not funny, she's got a gun! Get out of your gun! Come on, snap two! Oh, is that you know what? Come on!
Pick it up, huh?
I know what I'm doing. I'm all like, Data's just unhappy. This is a pal.
Let me help you, brother. Let me help you.
So he goes with Plan B, which is the Pinchers of Peril, and
the bluest joke of them all, right on Joe Pantaleone's balls.
Yeah, he gets him right in the dick.
Which, if we're led to believe we were going by the amount of force it had
to
hold him up, it must have just obliterated his balls.
Just sterilized him. Yeah, absolutely. There's a hospital visit in the future for you, sir.
Like it held up like a 90-pound kid.
Right?
So it just straight up chomped his balls.
So he has been castrated.
Oh, sweet Jesus. Well, now he's a eunuch.
You gross old witch!
You want to play pirate? We'll play pirate.
No!
Keep going, Smarty. Keep going.
I can't move my
Yeah,
hands.
we'll play pirates. Now walk the plank. Get out on that
My
plank.
hands,
Say goodbye to your little friend.
Get out of the way!
Two down. Who's next?
So the Fratellis are like, you know what? It's murder time. Andy, you're up first. They tie up her hands and they make her walk the plank because you might as well have a little bit of fun with the fact that you're on a pirate ship, right?
Right.
It's like even the Fratellis are willing to have a little bit of fun out of this, you know? Like, all right, you know what? Fuck, this is going to be
Yeah, we're going to bound your arms and then make you dive into the pool of water you will then drown in. It's very light.
Well, I like that, you know, they don't just like slit her throat. They're like, you know, let's play pirate.
Yeah, we can watch her drown.
So she is launched into the water. Brand, of course, jumps in to rescue her. And it kind of seems like they're all going to meet a similar fate of walking the plank. But then we hear a sound in the distance.
Chuck! How'd he get out? Save him! Save him! It's Master Step!
The pirate sloth.
We hear, hey, you guys. Now, I want to once again underline the fact that the deleted scenes are important.
Yes.
Because the reason Sloth says, hey, you guys, is from a deleted scene.
Yes.
When Chunk and Sloth are looking through the caves, and Chunk yells down the cavern, he says, hey, guys! And Sloth repeats him.
Yeah, and everybody always makes fun of it. So he only goes out to play at night. But you only like to go out to play at night, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, guys!
Hey, guys!
Yeah.
So that is why Sloth says, hey, you guys, which is one of the most, for some reason, memorable lines of the whole movie.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense that Sloth says it unless you have seen the deleted scenes. Like, where did Sloth get that? Why is that line being said?
Right.
Deleted scene. Alan, what does Sloth do here? Sloth shows up to the rescue, right?
Yep. Sloth shows up. He fights the Fratellis. But they tie him up. But then he reverses it. Or he basically fights them off.
Yeah, because he's super strong, right? Like, this
they
dude
can't
is jacked.
control him. He's too crazy.
He's huge, and he's, like, ridiculously strong. He may have the powers of Superman. We are led to believe that, right, Steve?
Oh, absolutely. He's like superhuman strong. You'd think he's a mutant if you didn't know any better.
Well, he rips off his shirt, and we hear that old Superman theme.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Referencing another Richard Donner movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's got the Superman shirt, and he kind of just dispatches them. You know, you think for a moment he's going to take it easy on his mom, but no, ties them all up.
No, ties them all, makes them all walk the plank.
Brad and Andy finally get their proper kiss, but the kids are down there, and they're in the water, and they need to escape, right? They're not going to go back on the ship. The Fratellis are up there. Tied up or not, they don't want to go back up there.
Yeah.
So they decide to escape, even though they don't have what they came here for, the rich stuff.
Right.
They're going to get out of this cave. So they find a small entrance. They decide to light a candle, which clearly says dynamite on the side of it.
It's a little bit like a Wile E. Coyote cartoon.
They kind of like blow a hole in the side of the cave so they can get out of there, but that starts causing the whole cave to start collapsing, which is something I've talked about in movies, where at the end, your characters are in a cave and the whole cave starts collapsing.
Yeah.
It's very common, right?
Right.
At least there's a fucking reason in this movie that it starts collapsing. They set off a bomb, right? That may cause a cave to collapse.
I thought it was because the Fratellis took the wrong treasure.
I think there's a combination of the two things, right? Because the Fratellis set off a trap.
They did.
Which you start to see all the gears and shit start to spin, right, Steve? We get like one final scene of like this Waterworld style, like one thing kind of like a rope gets pulled, a sail gets lifted, etc.
Like the Mariner's catamaran, absolutely.
So there's like a combination of these two things happening. So the cave is collapsing, and the kids, they're like, well, what about the treasure? And Brand's like, what about our lives, right? If we go back up there, they will probably kill us this time.
Right?
I don't think they're going to fuck around with walking the plank anymore. They're just going to stab us in the heart. So, like, let's just get out of here. So they do, with the aid of Sloth, right? He has to, like, lift up this giant rock so that they can kind of go through this very narrow passageway. So it seems like Sloth is going to get left behind, unfortunately. And they escape to the beach and are rescued. They're out of there.
Sloth!
Steve, the families and the press start to show up to, because the kids get rescued, and I guess off screen their parents are called. Maybe you can kind of tell us about what happens right here.
Yeah, the kids make it to the beach as the cave is collapsing on itself, and the press have shown up, and the kids start talking to the press, and this is one of those, another callback to a deleted scene. Can't remember which it is now, but one of the kids says, I think it must be Mel, says something about there being an octopus.
Data.
Data. And that line is there even in the theatrical cut of the film, but the octopus scene is not. It's like, so what octopus? Doesn't make any sense without that scene being there. And as they're all talking and reuniting with their families, and the cave has collapsed, the pirate ship breaks free and just starts sailing out of the cave into the horizon.
Yeah.
Which is a very neat shot, although it's like, why are no one's going to go after that? You're not going to want to call the Coast Guard? Anybody? Anybody.
It's going to sail off.
Right.
That's Willie's ship. Leave it alone.
Right.
But you know what? I like that Chunk's parents show up with a fucking Domino's pizza ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. They've already got food for him. In the novelization, they adopt Chunk and give him a bar mitzvah. That is true. That is a real fact.
So he's adopted?
He's adopted by Chunk's family, and I mean, he's adopted by Chunk's family.
Oh, you mean Sloth is?
Yeah, Sloth is adopted by Chunk's family in the novelization.
Well, in this version, Chunk tells Sloth that, you're going to live with me now.
Yeah, you're going to come live with me now.
But he doesn't even check with his parents.
Yeah, right? And it's like, you understand, Sloth can never take care of himself, like, ever. Like, you're going to be in your 40s and moved out, and Sloth's still going to be living with your parents.
Talking about Rocky Road.
You adopted for them.
Yeah, exactly. And look, you just feed him Baby Ruth. He'll be dead in the next 4 or 5 years at that rate anyway. So...
He lives off a steady diet of Baby Ruths and Rocky Road ice cream.
Right, yeah.
Domino's pizza.
I mean, look at him. He can't be long for this world. So...
There's we're kind of bouncing around a little bit here, but there's kind of like a few things that happen. Andy tells her parents, like, I want to take piano lessons again.
You're right. Like, why?
So that in case she's in another situation.
There's another pirate cave piano. That makes sense. Could happen again.
This can be very useful knowledge, Steve.
Because I ever encountered another bone piano made of pirate. This is a pirate booby trap.
Steve, the Goonies 2 is happening, so she's going to be an expert. She's going to go up there playing Beethoven.
Right? She has kids of her own. 20 years later, she's like, "Look, you ever get caught in a cave with an organ? You call mommy. Okay, I took lessons.
B flat is the same as C sharp.
Yeah, right. Now I know that. Fucking, I think this is funny. I don't mean it in a fucked up way, but yeah, I didn't know this again until the commentary. Kei Kwan can speak Cantonese fluently, and he reunites with the actor playing his father, who's been in a bunch of other stuff.
His name's Michael Paul Chan. He's like buddies with Joel Schumacher.
Yes, he's in a ton of Schumacher stuff.
Yeah.
But it turns out he can speak Mandarin. So when they're reuniting with each other, Donner wanted them to speak in a Chinese language, and many Westerners don't know there's any difference. And so Kei Kwan speaks to him in Cantonese, and then he speaks back in Mandarin, and the two of them couldn't actually understand each other at all. They are not interrelated languages.
But then the dad has that weird gadget too.
Yeah, because he's supposed to be also the inventor. So another callback to Billy's dad in Gremlins is like, oh, I got it from my dad. He's an inventor too.
When I was a kid, I got the impression that, like, the dad's invention, he was just doing that to, like, impress his son.
Maybe that's what it was.
I got the impression that he doesn't really do, like, that kind of stuff, but, like, he knows his kid likes it. So in kind of, like, a sweet move, he's like, I'm going to make this thing and surprise him when we do family photo time. But, of course, it fucking fails. Right? It's okay. You can't hug a photograph.
That's great, Dad.
Just watch this.
Come here, Daddy. Go there, Daddy.
He's just like his father.
你一個最好嘅發明師，同埋你發明力真係勁啊，爹哋。
講咁多嘢，呢條係捱死。
I just wanted to say thank you for offering to save my life.
What?
Well, I want to say thank you.
Wow, thank you. Real moment. You know, your voice is kind of nice when your mouth isn't screwing it up.
Yeah, well, thanks. And you know, your looks are kind of pretty. When your face doesn't screw it up.
Steph realizes she likes much younger guys.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I didn't know any high school girls when I was in high school wanted to be dating 11-year-olds, but fuck, whatever.
All that, and that's the moral of this story.
Right?
Well, like, forgive me, but Andy is like really horny throughout this movie.
Yeah, she really is. It looks like, and Troy thinks he's going to be the one to capitalize on it. Clearly, he's just not.
She's only horny for Thanos himself.
Yeah, I mean, this movie features a hobbit plus a guy who is both Thanos and Cable. So, and Short Round from an Indiana Jones movie, and a kid who hunted vampires and Lost Boys.
And a rock star.
And a rock star.
Corey Feldman.
Yeah, that's right.
The comeback king.
We're going to, yeah. The comeback king.
Is that your favorite Feldman song? Which one's your favorite?
Oh, God. Which is the one where he does the Michael Jackson bit for the 100 millionth time?
That's all of his songs.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Do you like his cover of Cry Little Sister?
Oh, absolutely. Of all the covers of Cry Little Sister, and there's got to be at least 12 of them, his is definitely the best. Absolutely.
I think it is neat that he does do that song because he was in the movie, though.
Yeah,
It's just, into his music.
Yeah, it's just too bad it's an awful, embarrassing homage to something that was way more awesome without him covering it in the first place. But yeah, I think the Deftones version's pretty badass.
Andy gives some advice to Sean Astin here at the end, too. She says, "You keep kissing girls the way you do. The parts of you that don't work so good, they're going to catch up to the ones that do."
And I assume she means like the asthma and the other stuff, but it kind of implies impotence. And like, I don't know.
I did not think asthma at all at any point in my life.
Oh, I love this part at the end when, after that, like at the almost very end, when he's about to take his inhaler, and he just says like, "Nah, I don't need it." Like he beat asthma.
No, you still need it. You still need it. You're still asthmatic.
Like, nah, it's like I'm too cool for that now.
Asthma.
Those attacks can kill you. Hold on to that.
But like he just doesn't take it.
Right.
It's like how Steph doesn't need glasses anymore.
Yeah, even Martha Plimpton rails on that in the commentary that at some point, because she doesn't need glasses in real life, she says, and like the glasses get broken, and they're all like, "How did you see your way through the rest of the movie?" And she's like, "I'm just an amazing actress." You know?
So it's kind of like another It reference almost, where like the kid that has asthma doesn't actually need it. It's just a placebo.
Yeah.
And he kind of like learns that in the course of the book.
Right.
So it's kind of like that with Mikey. There's some It connections,
Yeah,
some
exactly.
similarities for sure.
There's a few moments where you can definitely compare the two of them.
It is strange what Andy says to him, but the Fratellis are not trapped inside. Somehow they made their way out as well, including Sloth. So
Right.
they show up to the shore, and Chunk protects Sloth with a pizza box, you know?
Domino's placement. Yeah.
He shields him. You know, Domino's logo first.
It was toward the camera.
It was the cool 80s logo.
Yeah, it was. That was one of my takeaways
like
too. Is
vintage boxes.
It was the Noid logo.
Yeah, right. That they were. God, yeah, I missed that. I noticed that. And the Baby Ruth is so old. It's before they put the striping on the Baby Ruth package, and they had the old Pepsi cans, which were way better looking. The old Pepsi can was way better. And I'm a Coca-Cola person, but that can was way cooler than the one they use now.
Shoot her! You don't know what you're doing! Get him out of here! Go! Hands up what you're doing! These are the bad guys! Those are the bad guys! Don't put him down, it'll be alright. You got him.
Sloth assaults an officer, but fortunately does not get arrested. For his good deeds have made up for that.
Right.
He grabs the cop.
One of the ATV cops that goes riding up the beach is actually Dick Donner, which is pretty funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
With the cop, too, like, you know, the actual bad guys do get arrested, but Chunk has a moment with him because he called the cops earlier. He reported a murder, and this sheriff, just wrote him off.
Right.
He's like, he called the cops to report a murder, and this guy didn't listen to anything. And he was like, "Yeah, sure, Lawrence, you fucking lying sack of shit."
Yeah, because he's the kid who cried wolf. He's called about everything, but there's another Chris Columbus callback, and it was like, "Oh, that's about the time you called me about those little monsters that can't get wet."
Yeah, they multiply.
Right.
When you put water on them. But I don't care if this kid has lied 100 times. I think if you call 911, report a murder, they're obligated to check it out.
That was always my takeaway, too. It's like, look, I get it, and you could very well be right, but if a kid calls you and reports being witness to a murder, I think you sort of have to go look.
Yeah.
You know, probably send someone to check that out.
Make sure everything's fine.
Yeah.
And then Chunk tells the sheriff here, he says, oh, we were getting chased by the Fratellis. And the guy's like, telling more stories, huh, Lawrence? Bitch, you just arrested them. They're right.
Yeah, they just escaped your jail, you dick.
Like, no, this is after they're arrested. The
Oh, that's
Fratellis
right.
show up on shore. They're all telling the stories. Chunk says, yeah, we got chased by the Fratellis. And he's like, you lying sack of shit. Bro, you just put them in cuffs. They're in the back of your car.
Right?
We're getting chased by the Fratellis.
All right, fellas, that's enough. Telling more stories, Lawrence.
Oh, no, let's tell it for real.
This kid can say anything and they won't believe him at this point.
Absolutely. Too many times, Lawrence.
But there is one more loose end to tie up here, isn't there, Steve? Troy's father shows up and he says, you know what, this is a good time to get things signed off with the foreclosure of your home.
Yeah, I've got this douchebag kid of mine with me, so I guess I'll just handle this right now while he watches and talks a bunch of shit.
He shows up on the beach to do this. Like, you know, their kids have been missing for a full day.
Right?
They're like rescuing the kids. He's like, this is the time.
I can see you're in the middle of dealing with the police and reporters and stuff, but this seems like the moment to sign the paperwork.
Kind of got to get to the courthouse by noon.
Right?
I don't care if you just rescued your kids.
All right, Walsh. Today's the day, so let's get this over with.
Irving?
I'm sorry, Irene.
Come on, Walsh. We don't have all day. There's 50 more houses to tear down after yours.
He's off, Brand.
It's okay.
Sheriff, I want you to witness this.
Sorry, Dad. We had our hands on the future. But we blew it to save our own lives. Sorry.
It's all right. You and Brand are home safe with your mom and me. That makes us the richest people in Astoria.
Walsh, you're looking at the richest people in Astoria. Now sign it.
So, thinking that they have no choice, Mikey's father starts to sign the paperwork when the cleaning lady who they had hired earlier in the film, or the assistant household helper person they had hired earlier in the movie, finds a sack of gems and starts screaming at him not to sign the paperwork.
In the marble bag,
In
right?
the marble bag, yeah, and a mouth has to translate. Yeah.
Ay, Dios mío de mi vida. Ay, Dios mío de mi vida. Ave María Purísima, mira nomás. Ay.
What's she saying, House? What's she saying?
Señora, no firmen. Mira nomás que tesoro. No pen? No pen? No what? No right? No firmen. Mira nomás. No what? No sign. No sign. No sign. No sign. Ay, señor Juan, firma. Señor Juan, señora Juan, mire. Deme la mano. Deme la mano.
No sign.
No sign. And
Yeah.
like after everything she's been put through and everything Mouth said to her, it's amazing she didn't just take it and walk away. Like
I'm not giving this fucking drug dealing perverted
sex maniac with a dungeon. Yeah.
Their house gets taken and she just moves to Mexico.
Yeah, she's like, you know what? These people haven't even paid me yet. This is mine. See you later. Have fun wherever you move, you dicks.
Yeah, but she does come through. She gives them the gems, which they didn't think they got away with anything, but they did.
Right.
And one of the kind of neat things about this movie is that, like, you know, they were going to make out with bank. They were going to make out with more treasure that would not only save their houses, but they'd be living large for the rest of their lives.
Oh, God, yeah.
But instead, they get what seems like probably just enough for them to not have to deal with this foreclosure situation, right? So they're kind of just, the goal is really achieved. Because Mikey, he wasn't looking for his family to be rich. He wanted them to not have to move.
Yeah, he just wanted to make sure everyone could stay where they are, not have to go to different
point.
schools.
I didn't think about that because you're right. They didn't take everything they grabbed originally. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, they just got what I assume is just enough. I'm sure it's very valuable what they have.
Yeah.
But, you know, probably can save that whole community's homes, not just their own, their neighbors and everything, Data's home, whatever.
And a Ferrari.
Maybe they'll get a nice car out of it, sure. Which, you know, there is going to be another Goonies movie, and I hope they're not super loaded because of that bag of gems.
Right? Absolutely.
So apparently there will be no more signing ever again because they now have enough money to resist this, and the dad tears up the contract. he throws it up in the air, and then kind of a funny scene, you see behind him, like more paperwork shoots up.
Right.
It's just like a visual thing. You can see that like he throws it up in the air, and it's like that close-up insert shot of his hands in the air with the paper.
Right.
And then you see more come up from behind him.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can see like someone tossed it up.
I thought that scene was funny because he like rips it up and it's like confetti. He's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's like raining like paper.
It's not like in half. It's like confetti. Yeah.
Cue Cyndi Lauper.
He like
Yeah.
took the time to tear it into little pieces.
Little itty bitty pieces, and it's just raining down. Everyone's like, yeah. It was kind of a funny scene.
And then there appears to be a pirate ship.
You're floating off into the distance.
Holy Mary, Mother of God. Look at that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're at Cauldron Point, and what appears to be a pirate ship.
Yeah, the pirate ship sails off, and like there's some kind of like almost like spiritual connection between Mikey and One-Eyed Willie, right? So it's almost like Willie is free, even though he's a dead skeleton, right? It's like Mikey has this like kinship to him. So I think to Mikey, and maybe to a lesser degree to the audience, it's like good to see that Willie has like finally escaped the cave too.
This criminal pirate with his stolen goods.
Yeah.
Did you say he freed Willie?
Another movie that Richard Donner was involved in. So
Cue Michael Jackson.
Jackson. God.
And that is how the Goonies ends. You know, it's very kids movie in that it's like the wrapped up happy ending.
Yeah.
It's kind of also 80s movie in that way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, like the end of... hell, the end of Little Monsters is talking heads over them being on the beach, calling home, you know?
Nobody dies except, I guess, the people that were already dead from the Fratellis. But none of them die. It's kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah, those bodies. I guess there were people that died, but we never really met them while they were alive.
Yeah, they're people you don't care about, so it's okay that they're dead.
And they were dead when we saw them. But none of the Goonies die. They all escape.
So we're led to believe the Fratellis are kind of sent back to prison, right? And then the Goondocks is that's what they call their home.
Yeah.
Is saved. And, you know, everything is kind of wrapped up. Corey Feldman's got an older girlfriend now. Andy's going to make it with Brad, I'm sure, as soon as they get out of there. And Data is going to become the next Q for James Bond.
Chunk has a new friend.
Chunk has a friend, yeah, that he can pick out with.
Dude, I would love to see him working in the Q part of a James Bond movie, just as a throwback reference. Just like he's testing a gadget somewhere in the back.
Yeah, like he'd be like, maybe not Q, but like one of the guys in there.
That's what I'm thinking. You know, he'd be just in the background testing a new like chest-mounted rocket launcher or something.
A boxing glove that connects to your belt.
Like the head engineer guy. He's like the project manager.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. So that's the Goonies, guys. Final thoughts. Let's get into them.
I liked it, but I feel like it doesn't hit the same unless you saw it as a kid.
Which you didn't, right?
I didn't. It still holds up as a movie, but it doesn't have the same impact. It was a movie of its time for sure.
I want to say that the same year that the Goonies came out, there was another Oscar-nominated movie that came out called The Color Purple, which had a lot of the same names behind it.
Yeah.
It had Steven Spielberg, Frank Marshall, and Kathleen Kennedy. And I know people like to talk shit about Kathleen Kennedy, but god damn has she been behind some great fucking movies.
What a resume. Holy bejesus.
I mean, just Congo alone.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one.
Gives her all the credibility.
Another one her and Frank Marshall were both involved with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Uncle Frank. He was a good guy.
Uncle Frank, you know.
So, I just want to say that The Color Purple and this movie coming out the same year with a lot of the same people behind it's kind of cool because it's also a movie that I grew up on.
Yeah.
Like, my mom always had The Color Purple on. It was also, like, formative in my life. It impacted me. Like, it kind of... I grew up on movies like this, but also... a movie like that made me appreciate like real cinema, you know? I also liked the kids movies, but it was from a young age that I saw like movies that were not necessarily for kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another Whoopi Goldberg movie I saw as a kid, which we did a podcast on, was Ghost.
Yeah.
And that movie was like impactful to me in a way. Like
absolutely.
I'm glad that I got to see good movies too, not just kids movies that are good, but an actual good movie.
Yeah, I think it kind of warped me because got to be a point when I was 10 or 11 where a lot of kids movies just didn't interest me anymore. Some of them still did, but I felt like I wanted to watch the grown-up movies more often.
I definitely liked live action movies more than animated.
Yeah, I think that was true too.
A movie like The Goonies is a movie that was for kids and it wasn't animated, so I'd be more inclined to watch this compared to like The Lion King or something. Even though, I did like that, sure. But like, this was more my energy.
I got taken to a lot of the Disney movies without my even really wanting to go.
Yeah. So let's get into ratings. On any rating scale you want, Alan, what are you going to give The Goonies? Make it good, man.
6 doubloons out of 10.
God damn it. Steal my doubloons.
6 doubloons out of 10.
It's a doubloon.
Whatever. 6 out of 10. I like the movie. Again, it just didn't have the nostalgia for me. So I didn't have anything behind it. It was just like watching a kid's movie. I didn't grow up in the 80s, so it wasn't that cool. But I get it.
It's like you get it, but it didn't fully click with you, did it?
Yeah, nah, not really. Because I didn't grow up in that time, and I didn't see it as a kid. So
it's interesting. It's very fascinating to me because I wonder how I'd feel, if I hadn't seen this as a kid. Maybe I would be more like Alan. I don't know. But I did see it as a kid. Impacted me in a big way, as I've talked about. So I'm going to give it 7.5 apple flavored ice cream cups out of 10. Because the movie to me, it still hits in a lot of the same ways. And I watched it a ton as a kid, but what I didn't do is I didn't rewatch it dozens of times from like my young adulthood into now. So like,
interesting.
I've seen it 3 or 4 times as an adult, but like I haven't consumed this movie in the same way that I've consumed something like Hook. So when I watch it, it brings me back, right? As to where like, if I watch something like Hook, it's kind of like that same old, I'm used to it by now. It doesn't bring me back as deep.
Right.
But The Goonies brings me back deep, man. Yeah. And I love Data in this movie.
Data.
His lines, sometimes like I've talked about, are so funny. And I love the musical score. And I don't think there's a lot of adventure movies. It's a genre that is like, you just don't see as many of that particular genre. You see a lot of action movies. See a lot of rom-coms, you see sci-fi, but adventure movies are almost like a lost thing.
Especially like a kid's movie. Like, what kid's movie is like that nowadays? I don't even know what kids' movies are.
They're all like Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
They're all like animated or just weird.
Spy Kids,
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I do quite like this movie, so it's a good rating for me. Over to you, Steve. What's it going to be?
I am going to give this movie 8 out of 10 Baby Ruth candy bars.
Baby Ruth?
Baby Ruth. The nostalgia factor hits hard for me, and I agree with the two of you. If I had never seen this movie before or been born 10 years later and hadn't grown up with it the way I did, it is a movie I revisited a lot between the ages of like 8 or 9 and like 15 or 16 and saw a bunch of times, and I didn't for a few years and then came back to it. I just think it hits all the high marks for the most part for production of that kind. It's entertaining even if you're an adult. It's a concept you don't see much of in general anymore, but especially aimed for that particular audience. There aren't a lot of adventure films for like an adolescent audience, and I don't know, the delivery is just so close to perfect. It's very little you can really fault about it, I think.
Classic movie of our generation, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Goonies. I'm glad we finally got to do this episode.
Yeah, Lost Boys soon, I hope.
I looked through my list of fan requests, and I didn't see that anyone actually has requested this, and I could have sworn someone did at some point.
It's amazing.
But anyway, I want to thank you, the listeners, for checking out this episode. If you want to write in, you can email me at bigdumbmovie@gmail.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at bigdumbmoviepodcast. That's how most people contact me, I'd say. Give us a follow there, but the most important thing you can do for this podcast, the most beneficial thing you can do, is leave us a positive rating and written review on Apple Podcasts. That will help promote our episode so more people will listen. More people will listen, I will make more episodes. People ask for more episodes all the time. Now, on Spotify, you can also give us a rating there. So please give us I think it's a star rating. Give us a 5-star rating. And you have to listen to a full episode in order to do that, I believe. So please do that. We're also on YouTube, Big Dumb Movie. Now, even if you don't listen to us on YouTube or don't plan to, please subscribe to us there and give us likes when you see a new episode come out, because our YouTube channel is growing a little bit, but getting more followers there is another way to just promote us. And, you know, for all of you that listen, some of you guys might use one platform or another, but YouTube is one surefire way to help us grow. So please do that. Do we have anything else, Steve?
Mecca lecca hi, mecca hiney ho. That's it from me.
Well said. Thank you all for listening. That's a wrap for this episode. We love you, and good night.
See ya.
Big Dumb Movie with your host Corey, breathing in nostalgia in all of its glory. Watching movies like The Terminator. I'll be back with reviews later with some guests. Steve's your savior.